You don't actually.
Bob's
You do not
gaslighting
actually.
you on that, but it's
I'm just trying to get you to pet the
yourself.
dogs because petting the dogs is the best part of the game.
That's not a mechanic
Uh,
I'm aware of.
Speaking of dogs, I can't wait to get more lore about the Doges. I don't want to wait.
Our lives to be.
Whose fault is that? I'm not done preparing for Saturday, but I'm gonna panic on Saturday and wing it. We're good.
Budge out. Procrastinators unite. Tomorrow.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
I, Prophet, you made me. My mind immediately went to the introverts unite separately in our own homes.
Hell yeah.
Uh, oh, have fun, don't wear pants.
Bye,
Who was
y'all.
that?
Hello, everyone. Ah. Okie dokie. Get today's tweet out. Apparently, you can make an emote big with bits. Yeah, I saw some sort of pop up, or sorry, not pop up. Some sort of tweet from Twitch today talking about that. I have no idea what that system is, so I'm just gonna say if one of you guys knows, feel free to TLDR me. But I have not looked at that at all. The power ups thing, yeah, I'm not sure if it's like for their stupid like emote system that they implemented a while back that nobody actually uses. Okay. There goes the tweet. They also keep telling me to increase the tier of my sub to help you. Well, it would definitely help me. Yeah, it's because of the Partner Plus thing. Since I'm at the first tier of Partner Plus, but not the second tier, which is the max. I like it just is it has that like prompt. Which I think that might be something I can turn off. So I'll take a look at that when I get some time. Okie dokie. Why is my capture card not working? Um, Hold that thought. Well, that's not good. Okay, there we go. Now it's working. I was gonna say, I was like, oh no, please, not this again. I haven't had a capture card issue since I bought the new one. But this might have been the first, but it really wasn't. I think it was just being finicky. Okay, so the tweet is live chat. Do me that favor and go give it some love. I'm grabbing you guys today's sauce. We're about to get started. Okie dokie. Hello, everybody. How's it going? Here is today's artwork. Do me a favor and go give the artist some love as well. Definitely make sure to support all the artists. It's funny because I'm like always in a rush to get live, and then I have to like collect my thoughts, and right now I have nothing, head empty. Chat, we did get a new video out today for YouTube. It was talking about some of the quote-unquote drama that we had happen a couple weeks back. Not to be a drama farmer or anything like that, just sort of a pervasive issue in the community is that FGO always is getting compared to other gacha games, and we're always asking whether or not it can keep up. I myself have asked like these questions to you guys live on stream, and I finally felt like, hey, why don't we actually address this? Why don't we actually make a, conversational and analytical piece, a video talking about these things and whether or not it's actually fair. And so I tried to attack it from as many different angles as I possibly could. And I, again, you guys got like a 30-minute discussion on it. So you guys should go thank Okayist. He actually edited that one for me. But again, if you guys want to see more content like that, I'm happy I feel to provide stuff like that. Particularly on branching subjects as well. Does not have to necessarily be something like that, because that was, I'm going to say the overall tone of the video is, while it's meant to be quote-unquote lighthearted and philosophical, the subject matter certainly isn't, right? Like, it's talking about, FGO and how it's performing over time and where there may be concerns. But certainly it's something that I feel like... you guys ask me stuff all the time on stream, and so if there's ever a big topic like that, you can always, ask me, and I can definitely try to make an actual video on it. I recognize this Okitan, as you should. It's very good Okitan. Some of the comments were great, and most of them were trash hot takes. I mean, it happens, right? I think people feel very differently about the game. I think definitely one of those ones is like, I see all the time, like, a ton of people say that, like, FGO needs auto battling and stuff like that. I've never really felt like that. I've never really desired it, really. I think the only time that I could ever even say it would even make sense would be for something like a lotto. And I feel like there's other ways that you could approach it if you wanted to make lotto grinding easier. Particularly maybe even, like, doing stuff like the capability of like spending more apples to get quote unquote triple the reward. That's a Genshin-esque system, at least as far as I know. Maybe Genshin didn't invent it and it came from another gacha game first. But again, so it's like that would be at least one way of sort of resolving overall grindiness of stuff. But I do see a ton of people to like, oh, I don't want to have to grind for materials. And I'm like, what else are you going to do in the game? That is FGO's gameplay loop. It is grinding materials. So I understand that like other gacha games give you materials easier, but in other gacha games you usually they always get you somehow. Okay, there's always some sort of gameplay loop. There's always some way to keep you playing. So you have to ask yourself what it is that you're actually doing. So for instance, in something like Genshin or Wuthering, to my understanding, you're going to have to sit there and grind basically your artifacts, if you will, your actual gear, the things that you're going to equip to your character, because they're RNG. And so you have to grind that instead of spending a ton of time grinding the actual materials that a character needs. while I do understand the mentality of it's nice to not have to grind materials as much because that way I can just raise the unit already. One, FGO is kind of like that for most veteran players, I would say, where we already kind of have a lot of resources under our belt. And two, it's certainly a thing because the difference between something like an FGO type system and something like a Genshin type system is going to be that FGO, while it definitely requires a little bit more grinding for each individual unit, does not gate you in any way other than the actual availability of the materials. And even then, that's also technically not gated now that pure prisms exist in the game. So there is no availability issue for the most part. And so at that point, you start looking at it, you start realizing, okay, well, but does Genshin gate you? And the answer is yes, actually. Genshin gates you through world levels. Genshin gates you through adventurer rank as well. So like you can straight up have all the materials necessary to actually level up one of your characters, and you can't take them past something if you are not of a high enough, like, quote unquote master level. It's sort of their equivalent. So it's a different style of system, but I also just don't find it to be good. I don't like the fact that it actually prevents you from being able to level things even if you have the resources. And I'm gonna say again, then like the flip side here though is that in FGO you just have to grind more for these actual things to get the unit online. But once the unit's online, the unit's ready and good to go, and you don't have to do anything else. So there's an upside and a downside to it, and it is what it is. But that's FGO's gameplay loop. It is collection, it is grinding for the ascension materials, and that's really it. It's not got like armor or gear or something like, and the equivalent to that, chat, would be in FGO's sense like grinding craft essences is what it would be. In this game, we basically just gacha for our craft essences, and it is what it is. And in that regard, you could almost say the craft essences are sort of like weapons or something like that in Genshin. So it is an interesting way of handling things, but I do feel like at the end of the day, while it can be monotonous at times, it is still just an easy system. There's not any unfairness really to it other than, yeah, I mean, maybe you farm a little bit and the material that you need doesn't drop as much in the short term. But you also know that there's going to be a point at which you farm it enough that you get it all, and it's all going to drop. So. Oh, okay. I was just confused by that because I started hearing the talking in the background of it. I ran into a wall on Genshin where I couldn't level a character I liked beyond 40, so I just stopped playing. Right, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. I don't like that style system. I understand, but that style of system was put in place. I'm not sure nowadays about it too much, but I know at least at launch it was put in place mostly to gate people and to prevent them from actually like being able to work too fast towards max level and maxing out all of their characters. So it was meant to slow the player down and have sort of an artificial level of like gating going on so that you couldn't just finish all the content. And I remember that, especially with Genshin's launch, that people were very pissed because there was a maximum amount of refills you could pop as well. So even the like ultra whale content creators that were trying to like compete to be first to max level actually got hard capped, and they all basically got like walked into finally being able to hit the cap. There was nothing they could do, and they were all pissed about it. And I don't blame them because it's like, yeah, you just straight up just hard gated everyone. But it is what it is. We see this all the time in Chinese and Korean games. You don't see it as much, but it can be a thing as well in Japanese games. And usually American style games don't gate like that, but they gate in other ways. And Gacha Game was what's free to play friendly for you, because I saw people saying that was a game that lets you get what you want. No. Right? Because you could use that logic to say that Genshin Impact is free to play friendly. But the reality is you will always go to pity in Genshin Impact. So there is some level of like monetization there. So I'm going to say no, that is not free to play friendly. It might be cheaper overall than like being a whale in FGO, for instance. But you don't have to be a whale at FGO. So I'm going to argue that FGO is more free to play friendly. I feel like what makes free to play, or what makes FGO so free to play friendly beyond anything, is basically the inclusion of two systems. One, it's the overall welfare system, and now definitely the Evocation Festival that's come out on JP. And two is pure prisms, straight up. Like those two systems combined make FGO just so like cheap to play. You do not have to have really any unit in the game to get through content. There is no requirement. So everyone will complain about FGO, but it is complaining about what they want, not what they need. And that's the difference. It's you have everything you need. That's what makes something free to play friendly. And I will say this, like even in something like Genshin, I guess because in theory, like people always lament that Genshin doesn't have an end game and stuff like that. I'm gonna say that you really can do stuff free to play. So I don't feel like Genshin's actually that bad. I think the only difference with something like Genshin is that like Genshin does not just sit there and hand you, free units on the regular. It just straight up says like, all right, here's your first couple of free units that you get in the game. You occasionally might get one more from advancing story. That's it. That's all you have. You just have this sort of set roster if you never do that. Now you can still get more units because again, eventually a free to play player is going to accumulate currency, right? So this sort of thing happens in FGO too. Even if we consider only 3 stars and lower and welfares, and yes, you can complete the game that way. Yeah, I mean, you're still very likely to end up with a 5-star at some point as a free to play. It's just naturally going to happen. Which 5-star that is definitely depends. But I don't think you ever have to be a whale in Genshin either. Yeah, I don't think you ever have to be in any of these games. I think what to me makes something free to play friendly versus like I'm going to say a little bit more whaley is, so for instance, I want you to be a true free to play in Genshin. You're not allowed to spend any money. No battle pass. No Welkin. You're not getting anything to go to that second pity. You got to be true free to play. Can people do it? Yes. And I've seen it. Do people want to do it? Fuck no. I would argue in a weird sense that probably the vast majority of players in a game like Genshin spend some level of money. They're not true free to play. And the reason why is, again, just because of a lot of the strangleholding that goes on in the game. Just kind of the way they choke currency and or materials. So, but like, I feel like that's just the game's design. That is just how it is. And you kind of have to just accept that as you go in. And I've talked about that. You kind of have sneaky systems like that where, for instance, something like a Welkin. Welkin is like largely there as a way to replace login bonuses. But instead of you just getting the login bonus for free, you now pay for it. Which is like, I don't know about that one. But that's what it's kind of meant to be. Is like, hey, just give us some amount. And now you get like a set amount of currency over time. So it's like, it's kind of them hedging their bets. It's them going, yeah, you know what? If you just give us a little bit of money, we'll give you some currency back. But if you don't give us any money, you ain't getting shit. And that's kind of the problem with it. I feel like outside of Genshin, and you guys would have to tell me because this may have changed over time, but my understanding in Genshin is outside of things like the Welkin, once you have farmed out the open world, the only additional source of currency at that point is basically doing the Abyss. And Abyss is locked to a, what? Is it bi-weekly, chat? Bi-weekly cooldown or something like that? So I feel like that being the lion's share of like the currency that you will get over time, certainly like there's stuff there, but it also just puts a bunch of pressure on the free-to-play to basically either be god tier as a free-to-play and manage to full clear Abyss, with 3 stars on everything, or to just pony up and whale. So it's like there's always this pressure that you need to do a little bit better on this. And I feel like over time this probably actually gets easier for the free to play because they probably start accumulating better artifacts and stuff like that. But I feel like getting those initial 3 stars is probably rough, and there is probably that actual pressure to be like, what if you just rolled some? How long does it get to pity as free to play in Genshin? I don't know. I have no idea. Someone would have to tell me. Abyss is always designed based off the latest units. I have heard that before. Has there ever been a time, and again, for those of you that play Genshin, like I said, I don't play anymore, so you'd have to inform me. But has there ever been a time where the newest Abyss was extremely difficult to complete without the new unit, right? Because like I have heard there were times, at least early on, where like all of a sudden they threw in a new mechanic and was heavily incentivized that you had the new unit. Was there ever a time that it was like borderline impossible to do without? No, not for like the past year plus. Okay, yeah. And that's what I'm saying, because like if they do that, that's really bad. That's actually scummy. That's sitting there and going like, oh hey, if you just buy our new unit, then you can actually get max bonus. Because again, they lock a lot of the currency reward around not only participation within the game, but also max participation, aka you had to have not just done Abyss, you had to have 3-starred all of Abyss. So that's kind of why I say it. You get stuff from dailies and events too in Genshin? Yes, but I've also heard that the daily amount is piss poor. Events, I don't know, because I know events have changed over time, so you'd have to tell me about events. I was clear with trash units to make it a challenge, and even then it's piss easy. Yeah, and I've kind of heard that like, basically the longer you play, the easier Abyss gets. Like you can actually clear it with the bad units, but like, for the true free-to-play, setting foot into Abyss the first time, get fucked. And continue to get fucked. Like, it is not an easy thing. It takes you a while. 60 per day in commissions. Okay, but is that 60 of the, 1600 currency that you need to do a multi? It's 160 with Welkin. So you literally get more. The system gives you 60 for actually playing and 100 if you straight up just give them money. See what I mean, chat? In FGO, if this were the case, you would literally just get 160 just for fucking playing. That's the difference. Whenever you have a system like a battle pass, or again, this like I'd say subscription model of currency, which is kind of what Welcome Moon is, they carve out a slice of it and then bring it over here and monetize it. And so it's still there. All the amounts are still there. It's just now you have this extra monetization level, and it does begin to impact design choice overall in a game. It's, hey, you did it here. Hey, you did it with the battle pass. Hey, you're going to do it with the pity system. And all of a sudden, well, if we're going to monetize everything, we can't just have everybody running around with free currency all the time. We can't just give it out like it's candy. Then they won't buy this stuff. So that's how they actually then design the world to not give as much. And that's what I'm saying. Like it is a proven thing at this point that this just kind of happens with games that have microtransactions. If you get a good developer, they're not likely to make it a big deal. Like, for instance, if you go to like Helldivers, right? That was the more recent example where they actually had microtransactions in the game. But one, they were pretty cheap. You know, we're talking like $2 for stuff. And two, they were not required at all, and you could actually get the currency in missions. So it was way more of a just like, do it if you want to fast track it. You will have to grind it a little bit, but it's not actually like ever limited in any way, shape, or form. So that is probably a better example of it, but it's also the rare example of a developer not being scummy with microtransactions. The vast majority of the time, the second there's microtransactions in there, it does impact the game's design, and the developer does try to make as much money off of it as possible. Or they just lock some other desired, needed stuff behind paid currency. Yeah. And I'm going to say, like, this is not a unique to Genshin thing. Genshin's just the example that I can use because I'm familiar with. There are plenty of other games that do shit like this. It just is what it is, right? And the example that I can use is like, so for instance, in FGO, you get skins for free. You go to something like Genshin or heck, even Azure Lane, and skins start to cost money. I've also heard Nikkei as well does it. So that's definitely a thing. However, the upside is you get much more robust skins and you get way more of them. Whereas in FGO, we don't get skins that very often because they're free. So there's, again, a cost benefit to it. Any desire to roll Tiamat? Oh, a little bit. I haven't decided on that one, though. It does suck they get the daily revenue behind the welcome, but at the same time, for FGO, it does feel kind of bad. The best value Saint Courts wise is paying $100 Canadian for 5.6 multis. All right. So what is the max pack in Genshin? How many multis do you get out of it? Same price, 50 rolls. Okay. So you need 2 packs to reach 50-50 is basically what I'm hearing. So it's really funny, right? Basically, FGO just gives out way more free currency. Genshin Impact gives out way less. Meanwhile, the amount of rolls you get per multi is a lot higher in FGO, and the amount you get in Genshin is a lot less. But the pity amount is lower in Genshin. So you kind of have an equalization here. You don't have it over here. So this is sort of the issue, right? Because a lot of this free currency ends up coming up here to help out and help you get to that pity amount. And this is, I've talked about this before, this idea that people can't save to pity in FGO is hogwash. People tell it all the time. I see it all the time on Twitter and Reddit, and they're just like, pity sucks. I can't save to that amount. I'll never save to that amount. And I'm just like, no, you're just a gambling addict. I'm sorry. You just don't have any sort of actual capacity to be able to hold back. That is definitely the issue. Because they do give out enough, and you can hit pity multiple times in a year. So it is the thing. And that's, regardless of the whole discussion about why pity is set at where it's at and, should they reduce it or not. Just simply the analysis of people being unable to save is just not true. It's patently a lie. So I think if you go over there and you look at that, like I said, I think we can have that discussion that having the pity be lower in Genshin allows you to not have to save up as much. That's nice. It's definitely nice. However, you're going to take as long if you don't spend any money to save up to it. If you're not doing the welcome, if you're not sitting there constantly maxing out all of your free-to-play available resources in that, and you're not potentially buying packs. I have pity in hand right now. Yeah. And you're going to get even more from Anniversary, right? So it's people that have no self-control. Right. Yeah. They can't save and they YOLO from banner to banner. And I'm going to say, like, I have no problem if people want to do that. So just so that we're clear, right? Because I think there's people all the time that get upset with me when I say these things, like you don't have self-control. If you don't save to pity, I don't care. I only care when people complain that they can't save to pity. Those are the crowd that I'm like, I don't know what you want. I do it all the time. So you can sit there and say it's impossible, but I exist. So that's where it's like, yeah, I don't put a lot of stock in people that say stuff like that, right? But again, if people don't want to save to pity and they just want to YOLO every banner, that's perfectly fine. That's up to them. It's just I don't really want to hear the complaints about it, right? What's weird is I tried to download it on my newer tablet to replace Opera Omnia. Wait, for what? Sorry, I realized that I had locked in my chat. The calculated risk of not having 2 times pity amounts for summer now due to Hoku, but it's still enough for like 1.5 pities essentially. Well, and you always hope, you prepare to have to hit pity, but you always hope that you don't hit it. And the majority of the time, you do not hit pity. So that is the nice part about it. Because we don't have any sort of manipulation of the rates. There's no changing them out where it's artificially kept low, and then as you get closer to it, it creeps up. It is just, here's the rate in FGO. And that rate is the rate until the, like, again, the 300th spin. At which point it just skyrockets to 100. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best. Exactly. Yeah, and I don't think there's any problem with that. Sorry, I hadn't even touched my AP this entire time because we've just been on this tangent here. Hello, JC. How's it going? Genshin's maths problem is still there for characters like Yae, Miko, and Shinhee because you have to progress the story. You can't just walk there, sadly. Yes, I do agree with that. Like, it's just in Genshin, you usually don't need as many resources, and quote unquote farming in Genshin is literally you exhaust all the resources in your world. If you run out and still need more, you go hop in a friend's world and take theirs. So the only crunch is when there's a new unit, I suspect, that uses new resources, which is probably only right after there is a new zone made available. And that's probably it. But like I've said before, like, it's not just about grinding the materials in their case. Genshin also has to grind artifacts. So in a weird way, yeah, no, I vastly prefer FGO's system. There's no real RNG to the grind in FGO. It's just, yeah, there's drop RNG, but when you're farming a node that drops a material, you know it will eventually drop, and you don't have to worry about that. You just keep doing it, and eventually you get enough. But I do think people sweat the drop rates a little bit too much. As somebody that's done a crap ton of farming, and I would say more farming than 99.9% of the player base, it does not bother me. I'm used to it. Still love the video's thumbnail. Oh, thank Okayas for that. He's the one that designed it. Hello, Scarlet. Just finished your video on FGO. Keep up. Good. And again, I'm always curious to hear what people thought about that. If you guys felt like I was being too long-winded or being unfair or like not contextualizing the argument correctly, I'm always happy to hear any sort of feedback on that sort of stuff. But again, I liked doing a different style of video for once, right? Like that was a more conversational and analytical piece rather than, hey, let me talk about the unit and how it's properly used, or hey, let me go over the event and how it works, or hey, let me talk about this mechanic and you know, clue you in as to how to use it properly. Do you feel less bad if it's a shit piece of equipment? I don't know. That sounds like some sort of cognitive bias, because it still just sounds like it's bad either way. But you're saying that I guess because you get to actually see it in motion, that it doesn't feel less bad. I don't know. And you guys would have to tell me, because I remember CZ was telling me about how the system worked, and I remembered thinking about it and thinking, it to some degree it sounded better than just artifact grinding, but to another degree it also just sounded just as bad. Like it sounded like it was equally annoying because you had to go out and farm the world. and the world had an internal cooldown. That was very well executed. Good. Glad to hear you liked it. Kokomi Corrosion Abyss. Was that the one that we were talking about earlier where I was asked if there was ever a time that you really had to have the new unit? Probably take root from the complete course of long-term marketing from first and second year feedback. Oh no, because that's how the game was designed originally. Like it's not from first or second year, it's from year 0. Like the game was designed never to give out a ton of currency. In a weird way, I guess you could say yes, they could always correct that, and they could always just start giving out more for free. And I believe, chat, you would have to tell me that I believe that that there are times that the Genshin devs do actually give you currency, but it is usually not in great amounts, and it is usually like anniversaries and or celebrations of things that like the Game Awards that happened in the past. A little bit better if you had solid comparisons with other gotchas. Like, for example, go in depth with the pity system, but it would make the video bigger. Oh, no. I knew not to touch pity system in that video. I knew not to. Chad, pity system is like God. First of all, if you make a video trying to defend FGO's pity system, you will get excoriated. Second of all, if you make one trying to shit on FGO's pity system, you'll just get a bunch of people going, duh, and telling you that like they already knew this and they didn't need a video on it. So you have to find a good way to talk about it. You could compare it to other pity systems, but the problem is, and I've talked about several of the concepts before, right? Sort of why the pity system is probably set the way it is in FGO, why it's not like a Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail type system. And the issue at play with that is a lot of people refuse to wrap their head around it. While you sit there and you talk about it, they don't want to listen. They are just convinced that it's a bad system and they will refuse to listen. And they will shit on you if you try to make them listen. So it's sort of a no-win. And that's kind of why, like, I don't mind talking about it on stream. And I have done an original video on the pity system. But outside of that, I don't think I'm going to really try to broach that subject very much. Because I just know it's unpopular with the FGO community. People want it changed, and that is certainly a thing. But beyond that, it's... Fortlight guy, thank you for the follow. How many quarts till you hit pity? What, you mean on like my NA? Or are you asking in a philosophical sense? Yeah, because it's so it's actually 900. It's 990 is technically what you need, but because you have the 11 spin, so where you get one free spin each time, it's actually 900 instead. The video did get me thinking about rolling on FP. As someone that has rolled out a ton of FP, do you think something as small as a roll 100 button would be enough to help, or do you think more is needed? Oh, I think more is needed. I mean, chat, I will take a 100 time spin over what we currently have. I would prefer a, like, you know what? Let me just press it and it rolls out all of it. Or at least it just keeps going until my inventory fills. Please, dear God, just do that. I don't even care. Or you know what? Even better, just make it instantaneous. Just you press the button and it just instantly goes and it's just done. Sweet. There you go. I don't think anyone actually enjoys rolling FP out. At least not like after they've been playing the game for several months. It's only in the like initial stages of playing the game where you're like, ooh, shiny, I get new stuff. And then after you start having like NP5 of every unit, it starts getting very boring. So I see a lot of people say untangle some of the code. Chat, what do you think is tangled in the code? And I'm not saying you're quote unquote wrong. I'm saying I always want to understand what people mean by that, because I see a lot of people allege that they have like spaghetti code and all this stuff. And at least from what we know they have reworked the code before and they have updated the engine. So I don't know, right? And the only reason why I say this is because I'm not sure it's the right terminology to use, right? I think we can all easily say that the game could use some quality of life upgrades. But, like, I don't know that I would necessarily say it has spaghetti code at this point. Hello, Pion. The auto select we have for Embers on the CE side, they've actually kind of alleged that. And it's really funny because I've been pointing that one out for years. And then I saw Mr. 2 finally, as of, I think it was last year's Annie interview, actually talked about it. And I was like, it was like the freaking, I think it's the Wolf of Wall Street meme with Leonardo DiCaprio where he's sitting there in the chair and he's like, and I'm like, yep, that was me. It's something people always say, but there's no source. Right, and that's the only reason why. Like, I will say I do think there's the occasional like sloppiness that occurs on NA. Like whenever we get something and it somehow ends up different than how JP had it. But besides that sort of thing, I don't think the actual base coding is. But like again, I don't really know. And it's why I asked the question of people, is just to be like, is there something that they're aware of that I'm not? Right? Is there some example that they know of? Variation of Umu? If I had to guess, Bride or Draco? Yeah, it's probably Bride. I'm personally hoping for an FGO2, but that's probably never happening. I would love if they did an FGO2. I just don't know if like it's actually feasible to believe that they are, right? Like it's one of those deals where it could be something that they're working on behind the scenes. It also might not be. Wouldn't proc over 8 years because of a numerical bug. I've actually never heard of that. Like if you have something that actually demonstrates that, Raise, just can you like DM it to me or something? I'll take a look. Because like I said, this is why I asked the question. Sometimes like you guys end up pulling something like that out, and it's like maybe this is actually a thing, and I have no idea because I've never heard of it. What do you think about collapsing embers? What do you mean by collapsing? And yeah, I do agree with what White's saying. Coding in general is a very sloppy affair. It actually, like, it's just a commonplace thing. Should coding be sloppy? No. Is it? Yes. And the reason why is just because people are in a hurry all the time. They just look for sort of the easiest solution to their problems rather than the proper way to do things sometimes. And it's also a case of sometimes they're not exactly sure how to fix something, and finally something magically works and they just go, well, it works. And they leave it as that. Would you prefer a turn-based FGO2 or an open world exploration FGO2? That's a difficult question. And the reason that I say this is because, like, as cool as it would be to have an open world game, I also just inherently feel like they would just be more of the same. Like, this is actually what I talked about in the video, is like the idea of, like, you don't want to just copy your competition. It's not a good thing to do that. So FGO should not try to become like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves. Because again, we just don't need more of the same. Now, maybe they could put their own unique spin on it. That might be a thing. I'm gonna say maybe if they could find a way to do it better than their competition. But I feel like if they just make it a clone of their competition, no, I don't want to see it. As to which one I would prefer, I still probably prefer FGO's style because it is much easier to pick up and set down. If they wanted to make it a little bit more robust in terms of adding like live 2D or maybe just actually using 3D avatars and stuff like that, I'd be down to clown with that. But I feel like the real things that FGO needs are just quality of life like that, not necessarily a whole new like rebooting of the engine or anything like that. That's true. Genshin is copying Breath of the Wild. I think an XCOM style Fate game would be amazing for FGO 2. So it's really interesting because like I haven't heard what's happened with Girls Frontline 2 chat. Did it actually ever come out? Because I know it was meant to be the like XCOM gacha game. But like I don't actually know if it's like a problem or if it's actually going to work out. Because I do feel like it's an interesting idea. I do feel like FGO could do something like that. I don't know though as to like whether or not it's actually a good idea, whether or not it would actually work. Saying his passive isn't proccing. What do they mean by his passive? They mean madness enhancement? Was him proccing to give him 10% buster up? Yeah. How did they know that? Because it's not, you would not see a buster buff. It is a passive, right? So did they actually do the card math to figure it out? If they did, I'm likely to believe that. If it's just the ramblings of someone believing that it's not proccing, I'm not sure I believe that, right? Top 5 quality of life stuff you want to do in FGO? You could basically check out my improvements FGO needs to make video for that. So big now they can easily not include someone's waifu in it, and it might make that someone not like it and not play it probably. Yeah, I feel like the possibility of a sequel to this game sort of has to include the concept, the idea of potentially having everything. Or at least, I'll say this, chat. Even if at launch you did not have every unit that FGO had, it would have to come with an explicit promise that eventually they would be. And that's a tough one, because then you got to deliver on that promise. The before and after card math. That doesn't make any sense. Because there is variance. So they'd have to do way more than just that. And 10% is not going to result in a huge swing. Not unless you've got a ton of other buffs going on. Yeah, no, I mean, like, this is actually a curious thing. I could try to ask someone to look into it, see if it's actually still a thing. But, like, I'm just like, huh. Ugh. All the artists are bored because they aren't making new things. For what? For FGO? No. No, I don't think that's an issue. And the example that I can give you guys as to why it's not, literally look at, like, just how long artists shield the MiHoYo games. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I have seen an artwork of, like, Raiden Shogun. Artists don't get tired. As long as it's popular, they'll keep fucking drawing it. It is a thing. Artists will absolutely do what the community wants to see. So it's really just, do they retain popularity? Is this IP popular? If so, continue to draw. Might need to do the Hoyo multiple games thing. Well, I think in that regard, if you start considering the possibility of a sequel to this game, it does make a lot of sense to do it as a different style game so that you don't cannibalize yourself. But I'm going to say right now, it is painfully clear that LaSingle does not have the staff required to run 2 games at once. They might think they do. They do not. Shisho keeps getting new art. Oh yeah, same thing with Artoria, right? Like, it's not like artists are done drawing FGO even now to this day. My Twitter feed has just been Blue Archive art recently. So that's probably your own fault, but I will admit that Twitter definitely is, like, bad for bandwagoning you. If you've ever liked a single Blue Archive art piece, it will just start repeatedly sending you over and over and over again. Well, look, chat, I have said this before and I will say it again. They fucked up. FGO fucked up. When we got to Ordeal Call, they did not change it to FGO. Ordeal Call. What did they do, chat? What is it actually called still? Still called Cosmos and the Lost Belt. And they're like, well, it's a continuation of the story. You fucked up. That was your chance to be like, hey, this is a new chapter. It's a rebranding moment. Now maybe we can get some people to come pay attention to it again. And they just continued on with what they had been doing for the past 6 years. And this is the big thing that I've talked about. FGO does kind of have a branding issue, a perception issue. For the first like 1.5 years, you had part 1. For the next year after that, you had EOR. And from that point onward to current day, you have Cosmos and the Lost Belt. Chat, that first portion only takes up 2.5 years of a game that is going on celebrating its 9th anniversary. You have been stuck in Cosmos and the Lost Belt for over 6 years. That's the fuck up right there. Didn't they change it for Epic of Remnant between part 1 and part 2? Yes. Yeah. And that's also why with like Tunguska, they changed the login screen, chat. That had been our login screen for so many years that they were like, oh shit, we kind of need to change it. And it'll probably change again after Ordeal Call wraps up. Because it's kind of enough time. Isn't the fuck up that we finished LB7 before the OC thing? No. They should change the title screen to The Secret of the Lost Belt or something like that. No, I swear to God, if they ever mention a Lost Belt again after the completion of Ordeal Call, it is a bad idea. Like, it's okay for them narratively to call back to it, but they need to like never put it anywhere near their branding ever again. And again, it's not like the Lost Belt stories are bad. It's just, it is tired and old at this point. FGO belt harder, right? No, they absolutely need to instead like come out with something new. It needs to be like Fate Grand Order London Explosion or some bullshit like that, where everyone's just like, the fuck is that? Why is it named that? Like, let me go check it out. It needs to be provocative, right? As they would say in Zoolander. Cambrian explosion. Yeah, you can call it whatever you want. It just needs to be different named. It needs to have a different login screen, and it needs to just like really make people think, here's the new chapter of FGO. This is almost like it's a brand new game. We need to have people start like being super revisionist like they were with you know what? And then they also need to come out with a new anime that is just like absolutely the most amazing thing we've ever seen. That just inspires everybody and makes everyone want to play the game. And then we will literally have Cyberpunk 2077 completed. Where everyone starts getting revisionist and being like, it's like a whole new game. You got to come try it out. You got to play Fate Grand Order 3.0. It's like a whole new game. But like, yeah, I mean, like I can say that. Now execute that plan. Do it. It's not easy. And that's kind of the problem. Right, we're at 62k remaining, chat. Fate Grand Order Wandering Garters, Sage nods, yes. I wish they made Lost Belt movies like actual movies. Well, and this is where I've said before, like, I do suspect there is some sort of monetary issue in the game. Just because, if you really think about it with how popular it is, yeah, they should have been pumping out animes left and right. They should have been just continuing their media dominance. But at some point, it's like they got content with the farm. They got content with just how much money they were making off of it. And I'm not sure if that's the like Aniplex influence or maybe instead it wasn't that they necessarily got content, but that Nasu got busy with other projects. Like again, like Tsukihime or something like that. We don't really know. So I kind of want an FGO anime of the summer events. Oh, especially like Summer 3. Chat, would you guys kill for a Summer 3 anime? I would. But to be real busy here in a weekish, yeah. Summer 5 anime? Nah, I wouldn't be that interested in a Summer 5 anime. Like, it would be a horror anime, I guess, but like, I don't know, chat. We all know that it could never top the best anime of all time, Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories, the English dub. Truly the best horror anime. I just like any anime at this point concerning Fate in general. Yeah, I mean, it's to me, you can look at like Fate and you can actually see that it is just flat out slowed down. I don't know why. Like maybe part of that is like, again, that like maybe Nasu's too spread thin. Maybe he's got his hand in too many cookie jars. Maybe he's got too many irons in the fire. But you know, certainly part of that is that like I think he is so busy with FGO, but we're not getting, you know, the same pace really of releases for like anime and other projects as we used to. At least I don't feel like that's the case. Maybe someone correct me and it's like, oh no, it's actually been the case. But I don't know, right? Do not lust in your heart. Yeah. Ghost Stories dub isn't even scary. I know. That's why I said it's the best horror of all time. Not scary. Grand Carnival's fun. It was. They actually should continue it. I actually feel like Grand Carnival is one of the better things that they did. Unfortunately, like Grand Carnival is one of those deals where it's like it's sort of like you're only going to understand it if you're actually playing FGO. But I feel like it would at least get some people in. The Wandering One and Ame Poulain, thank you guys for the follows. The only thing I would do for FGO in terms of improvement would be give you a USO token that gives you a free 4-star after a set number of weeks. It's really difficult. I've sat there and I've tried to think about like how do you think or how do you fix the USO system? Because the problem that I feel like a lot of people forget with regards to that is simply that the USO system has already been redeemed a shit ton of times by like huge whales. So any change that you make to it has to be retroactive, and that is going to be a lot of hell to pay if they do end up changing something. So I've tried to sit there and think about how I would handle it, and I can't really come up with a idea without just totally warping things. And that may be why they're just not touching it themselves. It may be it's a no-win type of situation for them. Had a new item? That's not going to make anyone happy. Was Taiga Dojo and Carnival Phantasm is fucking funny. Yep. Maybe add them to challenge quest rewards and give them to whales, the equivalent to however much they spent. Yeah, like it's rough. They would have to find some way of making it so that it didn't just, you know, suddenly be an I win button for every whale. But granted, most of the people that have redeemed the USO system a bunch. So for instance, chat, I have almost every unit in the game. I have NP5 of several units. I have only ever redeemed 2 USOs. I'm headed towards my 3rd. But there are people that have redeemed way, way more than me. So the issue at play here is if you're someone that's redeemed way, way more than me, you're probably at the point of you have NP5 of every unit. And once you have NP5 of every unit, like there's really not that much advantage to be had. You probably already have NP5 of every single like 4-star, even if we're only talking 5 stars here. So I don't know. Again, I don't really care how they do it, but I would say that they probably should try to find a way to transition the USO system into more of a token-like system like a lot of their other ones have, which is really funny because I'm not sure if like the USO concept is also where a lot of other gacha games get that idea from, but I suspect not. I suspect the USO concept is a shitty like version of that original concept to begin with, but I don't know. Part of this is I did not play gacha games before FGO, so I have no idea necessarily how things were prior to it to some degree. Like I'm aware at least to some degree of like Grand Blue and stuff like that, but beyond that, I don't know. Only got one USO in my years of playing. It was for Andromeda. Oh, I've gotten several on accident, but it's just because, like, usually a 6th copy showed up when it shouldn't have. It's just a lot more obtainable for all players. Yeah. And that's like, I feel like you naturally, with any system, I think the reason that we can all call the USO system bad in this game, right? The reason that almost no one will defend the USO system is because you can look at the USO system and you can look at how it works and you can realize that the vast majority of players will never interact with the system. If you have a system in the game that the vast majority of players will not use, it's a bad system. Period. End of story. I don't care what it's supposed to do. If the majority of people don't use it, it's probably bad. And I'm saying, like, even once, right? That's why Janu kept appearing? No. No, Janu knows I'm a good boy. Your Prism shop quality or quantity should be doubled IMO. Alright, so chat, why? Let's talk about this, because this is another one I see crop up all the time. Why do you guys think there need to be more pure prisms? I like how chat absolutely knows, right? Like, and this is why I say it. It's you guys gotta understand what the pure prism system is. What is the pure prism system? It is a fast track, a bailout for new players. It is not a replacement for farming. Yes, it is a catch-up mechanic. It is not meant to replace farming for you. And so that's why I always say, like, I guess to a degree, you could, okay, here you go, chat. We refreshed the Pure Prism shop once. Do it again. It's a never-ending cycle. Like, straight up. That's all it is. Like, the second they do it even once, people will ask for it to happen again. And again. And again. And again. And again. And again. I also want to use it more. There's nothing stopping you from using it. It's just, I think the reason that the majority of people want it to refresh is because they are low on a particular material or two. They realize that it sucks. They don't want to have to go farm it. To which I say, then don't farm it. But there's obviously going to be a downside to that. You ain't leveling anyone or working on their skills that requires that thing if you don't farm it. You can try to wait for an event that will give it to you. That does happen. We get every single material every single year in events. But is it going to be enough? Is it going to be the amount that you need? Maybe, maybe not. So you do at some point have to just sit down and actually use it. And also keep in mind too, chat, I feel like where I actually started to see these calls was not when the Pure Prism system first came out. Where I started to see these calls is actually after Blue Apples came out. Oh, look! Here's this system where you don't have to play the game. I don't want to have to farm anymore. Because I'm making blue apples. The reality is, yeah, you shouldn't just constantly make blue apples. You should farm when it's actually good to do so. Particularly when you need to, right? I thought it was because they can't farm more. No. No, what ends up happening is a lot of people a lot of people will just sit there, and so the efficient way to do it is you do your 3 runs a day. That way you get your dailies done. You get all the rewards for logging in, for getting the dailies, all the exchange tickets that you get out of that. And you maybe even get your weekly missions done as a part of these 3 runs that you do a day. Then with the rest, you make blue apples. Here's the deal, chat. If you actually use these 3 runs a day to go and just farm that material you need, you'd be surprised at how quickly that material accumulates. You do get a ton of materials from it. You just have to be patient. And this is why it always is like to your benefit in these sorts of things to be farming with a lead. They already addressed MP overflow? I don't think they addressed MP overflow. Like, and it's kind of weird because they've added a bunch more stuff to the shop, but one, the newer players just get hurt that much more and need that many more mana prisms for it. And the veterans, you know, like me that are sitting there on hundreds of thousands of them do not need them. Like it's not going to pull us out of like the insane amount that we already have. And if there's no event running, I make blue apples after the 3 runs. Yeah, I agree. And I think that's smart, right? Just make sure you do your 3 runs every day. If you don't do your 3 runs every day, you're just missing out on more. So in a weird way, I'm telling you, you can be lazy, just don't be totally lazy. Never be totally lazy, chat. The second you go total laziness, yeah, you're not going to get anything. You're not playing the game. You can't expect to get stuff for not playing the game. Which is funny because we do still get plenty of stuff for just logging in and not actually playing the game. But you definitely should at least do your 3 runs a day. New players still get screwed on stuff like good luck getting 216 ceremonial blades. I mean, well, for instance, chat. Good luck getting 216. Sure. But I can definitely come in here and I can go right on down and say, hey, look at that. I can get 100 of you right now. And yeah, even a new player can do this because it does not take you long to accumulate the pure prisms. Is it enough to max your unit? No. Is it enough to ascend the unit to a max level and get one of their skills online? Yes. Yes, it is. And that is way better than the system that it used to be, which is, chat, imagine now a world where pure prisms don't exist. You ain't even ascending the unit. So you're not even going to be able to use them, really. So that is why they put pure prisms in the game. And I remember talking about it when the system first came out. I said it was one of the most genius ideas they have ever had. It is just legitimately a good thing. And people farm for the materials natural? No. So, like, the problem that you had... So, chat, let's say you are a new player. A new player to the game. And on banner is a lady named Morgan Le Fay. And you would like to level up your Morgan Le Fay because you think that she is hot. Get fucked. You ain't leveling her. And I say this, right? Like, I actually have no idea what her ascension mats are, so let me go look. It's possible. You could. As long as you've gotten through Babylonia. You ain't doing it in part 1. But well, actually, no. I think scarabs are actually Camelot. So yeah, okay. You could technically do it after you've cleared Camelot. But so the point is, essentially, you could get a unit that maybe is just Lost Belt locked. And if you do that, and it requires Lost Belt materials to ascend them all the way, you're screwed. Why? Because you can't get access to them. There's only one way you can get access to materials that you don't have the singularity for. Events. This is the problem that they had, though, before they came out with the Pure Prism system. They were at a time period where a bunch of events back to back to back got locked behind Lost Belt completion. And people got pissed. This is actually why, for a good chunk of time, they did not require high-level Lost Belt completion. Because they actually backpedaled off the stance that they were having. And it's because new players couldn't gain access to the event, to the welfare, to the materials that were in the event. And if you can't gain access to the materials in an event, you can't gain access to materials that you don't have access to due to story restrictions. Which means you just might not be able to work on your units. And that's why the Pure Prism system came out, and it's really good. It's really nice. It's really smart that they did that. And I would still say that system beats the pants off of a lot of other gacha games that don't do things like that. So it's really, really good that they allow it. But it is not meant to be a permanent solution for all of your farming needs. It is just meant to help you get the units that you actually have up and running. Not necessarily maxed out even. Why do some units eat up mats like they grow on trees? Looking at Anna, all units eat up materials like they grow on trees. At least, if so, the only difference is the size of the shrubbery. Okay, a 1-star eats a tiny little fern. A 2-star eats a much bigger palmetto, right? A 3-star eats I don't know, some sort of frickin' miniature tree. A 4-star eats a fucking tree, okay? And then a 5-star eats a goddamn redwood, okay? That's just how it works. They all consume it. And the only reason that some hurt more than others is because you don't have the materials for them. That's it. Sometimes a whole ass force? No. They're equal across the board, chat. There's not units that take more than others. Okay? All the 5-stars are functionally equal. It is leveled out. The only difference that you might see is you might have a 5-star that takes gold materials, which are set at a certain amount per material, and you might have a 5-star that takes bronze materials, which are set at a certain amount per material. But they're all the same, right? So to give you guys an example of this, for instance, here is Morgan Le Fay again, right? And you can see Morgan Le Fay just out here taking up things. You could look, she takes 15 gold materials per skill, right? But then I might be able to go over here and I might be able to select another 5-star here. Let's go look at Shisho. I don't remember if Shisho will have a gold mat on hers. She doesn't. She takes 10. But you can see, it is relatively equalized. There's not this huge variance in it. It is just, hey, it is what it is. And the reason why sometimes it feels bad is because maybe you go you know what? I actually have those Hearts of the Foreign God. What I don't have is dust. And that's the problem that you run into. It's just a case of you just have some materials to a greater degree and some materials that you don't. And a lot of that has to do with how far you are in the story, what events you've managed to actually do, and again, your access and availability of resources that you have. Plus, what other servants you've leveled. For instance, you might have had a good chunk of dust at some point in time, but then you got 2 units back to back that required dust. And it is what it is. There's year 1 bronze mats where it's used 50 servants. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the year 1 bronze mats require 7,000 plus for every unit in the game. The reason I say plus is because I think one of them goes all the way up to 9,000. You can only count to 4. That's what the song is. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go now. Nobody said there be math. Don't worry, he can only count to 4. I can only count to 4. That's still math, sir? I know. It's just basic math. Everyone should be capable of doing that. Anyways, we got our stuff done, chat. Let's do Arcuied. I know chat wants to do Arcuied. It's just a thing. Oh, that was a good addition. There's going to be lots of numbers, chat. Um. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's actually talk shop here. So again, we're going to be doing Arcuied, and Arcuied's going to be a very, very interesting unit. That's the prior one. So we've got the summoning campaign, lucky bag, and lucky bag. So Arcuied has not had another banner. Ooh, so she's coming up on 2 years. Yeah, so this is why there's this prevailing theory that she's going to be the 30 million, and I do believe this to be the case. The only reason why I wouldn't think she wouldn't be the 30 million is if she ends up at anniversary. Why are people complaining about Draco? So you see all of these? Draco doesn't have these. Draco was left off of every lucky bag on purpose. And that's sort of the problem. The people realized that the devs were not allowing her to be gotten, even by random luck, and it pissed people off. But to be fair, yeah, Draco hadn't been gone that long. That being said, because Draco had not shown up on a GSSR, and because they basically took like 14 months or so to bring her back, everyone just rolled. They said, "Fuck it, we can't trust you. You're not gonna put her on stuff." So it was basically this banner on JP was get Draco or else, because we have no idea when the next Draco banner will be after this. FOMO worked. Yeah, and that's why people are upset, is because they just artificially created FOMO by purposefully leaving her off of every GSSR, even though she should be there. Do you think it's over? What, that they'll start running Draco on it? Maybe. I think so. I don't think there's really any reason to hold her back now, but I've talked with Avalon. Avalon thinks that they will still continue to. So it's certainly possible, right? Like, it just depends on what the devs want to do. And if they decide to let her go and release her, then that's fine. If they decide to keep holding her like some, prized pig, then you're going to keep getting no GSSRs. So, yeah, she was only on the Destiny summon. That was the only one. Or wait, no, was she left off the Destiny as well? I feel like she was also left off the Destiny summon because you couldn't pick her as a choice. She was on Destiny? Okay. I just remember that you had the groupings for that one, so I didn't think that was a pickable one. But yeah, I guess I'm wrong. Okay, chat, let's go ahead and start this. Why does that keep... There we go. Also, I keep noticing that I'm just having nasty cow looks. My hair is just going crazy. Okay. Hey guys, my name's Khadroth, and today we're going to be talking to you about Archetype Earth, aka Arcuied. Now, Arc, as she's better known by everybody, is a obviously very popular Type Moon character from the Tsukihime franchise. She did not originate with FGO as much as I would like to meme it so, And she's definitely going to be a very, very sought after unit. She's going to be showing up this anniversary here basically as the featured unit. And it's actually a pretty decent banner because you'll also be having the addition of Shu Fu. We will talk about her actually in a subsequent video after this one. And there's definitely some decent Cs, particularly A, as it is a very, very nice CE if you manage to get MLB of it being a 60% starting charge CE. But other than that, I think the big consideration everyone's going to have with Arcuied is, do they actually need her? And I'm going to go ahead and just say this right at the very beginning of the video to just kind of alleviate people's concerns. If you really like Arcuied, there is no problem rolling Arcuied. She is a very good unit. If you don't want to roll Arcuied for whatever reason, you do not have to have her. She is not an essential unit by any stretch of the imagination. There is some really nice stuff that she can do, but you are not required to have her. Now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm going to stump for her here, and we're going to try to give the best case for why you should get her. Just understand that you do not have to, and it is 100% your choice. So, just to begin with, again, she is a limited unit. As of this current moment of recording this video, and again, it may be some days before I actually get the video posted to YouTube, but there has not been another archetype Earth banner. That is to say, Arcuied has not had another banner in FGO. The only other banners that she appears on are all lucky bag summonings, which are GSSRs. So she's not held out of the GSSRs like Draco has been, but she has not had an actual raid up since her original one. In that regard, this does sort of require a little bit more of a special consideration. She will certainly get another banner in the future. She will not be a unit where they created her only to give her one banner, because that would be dumb and they would never make any money off of her ever again. But you have to at least understand that if you do not roll her at anniversary, at minimum, it's going to be a long time before you see another banner, since JP, now almost 2 years ahead of us, has not seen another one still to date. There is a prevailing theory that she will be the unit on the 30 million downloads campaign whenever it arrives, and that might be the case, or it might be, if we don't get a download campaign before anniversary, that she just shows up as an anniversary unit on the banner there 2 years again later. But either way, I'm going to say that's going to be a long time before you get another shot at her, so that's why you need to consider whether or not you wish to roll. I will say one of the biggest considerations for most people is going to be the upcoming summer event, which has 3 very good SSRs in it. So in that regard, this is going to be a sort of hot button issue for a lot of people. But do keep in mind, you will get a really nice influx of quartz from the anniversary. Just don't expect to get the full 1,000 number that you see flying around, as everything is limited by milestones. But these are going to be the things that you need to consider as to how much you'll have, whether or not you can hit pity, and how much you think you need to save for potential summer rolling if you were trying to think about rolling Arcuied. With that all out of the way, we can now begin to talk about what Arcuied is as a servant. So she is going to be as we already denoted, limited 5-star unit. She is going to be an AoE Buster Moon Cancer. And while that might not sound like the most appetizing thing just at face value, she actually has a very good kit that has a lot of things that you should try to consider. So let's go ahead and start by talking about the raw stats here. You guys can see that Arcuied starts out with about 11.6k attack. This is actually not very strong. It's not bad. It's just kind of right there, average in the middle of what you would expect for a lot of SSRs. She does at least have 14k HP, which is also not that great. It's just not bad either. It's just, again, kind of right there in the middle, just sort of balanced, if you will. You can see that she is star attribute. She has 50 star absorption and 15 star generation, both of those coming in right on average for the Moon Cancer class. And then she ends up also having 0.45 NP charge attack. This is actually exceptionally low and probably a lot lower than we're used to seeing for a Moon Cancer, but it's not going to be a huge concern given the fact of how her kit works. Now you can see she only has the 3% NP charge defense, but again, this is sort of a standard amount. And then she has a fairly low death rate here at 0.6%. Again, not gonna be the worst stat for her, given the fact that you might be taking her into a scenario either as a backline unit or as your main damage dealer where there might be death proc flying around. So it could certainly be a thing that would actually be of benefit to her. Just again, as always, pay attention whenever you're dealing with death proc. Her alignment here is chaotic good in stages 1 and 3, and then neutral good in stage 2. So again, she's always going to be good for you, but you definitely need to question as to whether or not you want her to have either chaotic or neutral alignment, depending on buffs that might be flying around in the party. Thankfully, there's not going to be too many that affect that sort of thing, so you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. And I'm going to say you can kind of put her in whatever Ascension form that you want. She is a female gendered unit, and her traits are Intimate Elish Nullification, Humanoid, Immune to Pigify, and a non-hominidae servant, and just a normal servant. There's actually not a whole lot here to exploit. Probably the most exploitable one is Humanoid. Everything else here is just kind of meant to be an anti-trait more than anything. You can see her deck here is double Buster, double Arts, with a singular quick card. The interesting part about this is, given the fact that she has a Buster Noble Phantasm, it does mean that you're going to be able to form triple Buster Brave chains if you manage to get both of her cards at the same time in conjunction with that NP. But the good news is she still has the 2 Arts cards to help out with that NP generation issue, and you can see they're no slouch having 4 hits on them. In fact, her hit counts across the board are either average or better in the case of both her Arts and Quick cards. The only downside that you might be able to say out of this is she doesn't have maybe the 4 different cards, aka another Quick card or another Arts card, to really help out with NP generation. But again, being a Buster unit, I'm not really sure that we care, especially since a lot of the time we're going to be running a Koyanskaya alongside of her, and also potentially having that extra charge on her Buster cards should that actually come into play. So at the end of the day, it is a nice thing for her to have, but it's, just kind of what we expected for the kit. For the deck. Now, talking about the actual kit here, we're going to get to the first skill. And you can see it's going to seal all enemy skills for 1 turn. This is certainly a nice feature, but keep in mind that whenever you seal an enemy skills, if they don't have their NP, they're just going to start attacking you, which means that you're going to start potentially taking more damage at that point than you maybe otherwise would have had they wasted their turn popping a skill. But it's kind of in a nice way, just nice to have this to stop really annoying enemy skills from actually going off. That's just always sort of the catch-22 that you have whenever you try to skill seal someone. She also will reduce the enemy's defense for 3 turns. So again, it's enemy wide, it's wave wide on the entire enemy, and it's going to be 20% down at max for those 3 turns. The upside to this is you get more damage whenever you pop this. The downside is because it's a debuff, it's not going to be carried in between individual waves. So you just have to keep that in mind whenever you apply this skill, that it may not come forward with you into a subsequent wave after that. She's going to increase her own attack for 3 turns by a standard amount of 30% here. And that's definitely going to be nice, especially given the fact that this skill is going to be on a 6-turn cooldown. This means that with double Koyanskaya setups, you're going to be able to double pop this skill, particularly on turns 1 and 3. That means that you're going to have it right there at the beginning to apply to that first wave, and then you will have it again on wave 3 to get not only more attack up, but also get that defense down on the actual waves that you would probably need it for. Remember that when we're dealing with someone like Arcuied as a Moon Cancer, we're naturally dealing with what we like to refer to as a neutral looper or a just neutral damage dealer. For most targets, Arcuied is going to be neutral. And the reason why is because unless she's interacting with a ruler or an Avenger, she doesn't really have any sort of extra damage bonus. So the only other exception to that rule is going to be Berserkers. If you take her against Berserker, she'll absolutely slap them down because, again, she's going to deal effective damage, but certainly for most other scenarios, if you try to take her in, she's going to instead be dealing 1 times damage rather than any sort of effective modifier. But there's a little bit of ways that she can kind of help out with that. Obviously, the doubling up of skills is certainly one of them, but there is still another bigger one still to come. Next, we get to the second skill here, and there's a lot to be said about this skill for such a very unwordy skill. And the reason why is because this is a 100% charge skill. That right there just is enough to tell you, hey, pay attention, this is a good unit potentially. Whenever we see 100% charge, particularly on an AoE damage dealer, that's a sign that they can be used very effectively for, if nothing else, farming applications. So she is a 5-star that definitely makes her a little bit more expensive than your average Arash that's floating around out there, but certainly this is a nice thing for her to have. She's also going to increase her own NP damage for 3 turns whenever you do manage to pop this by 20%, so she's got that going for her. In a weird way, you might be able to actually double up this skill, then allowing you to get multiple turns of the NP damage buff. But again, this can be somewhat hairy and requires certain specific comps in order to be able to do this. Still, it is a really, really nice thing, and if you did manage to double it up, you would be able to do it on turns 1 and 3. That being said, because it is a 7-turn cooldown, this means that it does not double up conventionally in the Koyanskaya system. Koyanskaya can only reduce cooldowns by 4. You have 2 other turns by which your cooldown would be reduced. So the maximum normal value here is 6 turns of cooldown that you can kind of be able to deal with. So the second we deal with 7, that means we're going to be 1 off. So we have to find some other source of cooldown reduction. And there are numerous other units that might function to this capacity and allow for this to be the case. It does not have to be any particular unit, the least of which we could say it could be someone like Maid Alter, a Buki Summer, or again, even, other units that have any sort of cooldown reduction. So again, even someone like Tamamo, if you manage to actually work in her NP somehow. All of that is possible should you so try. But regardless, probably one of the best ways to handle this is going to actually be to use the Atlas Institute Mystic Code. That Mystic Code just has natural cooldown reduction on it. So the only problem with it is going to be that you're going to be taking that over taking something like Plug Suit and all the firepower that that can provide, especially with a 3rd support. It does mean that you would be able to pop this skill on turns 1 and 3, as we already mentioned, meaning that you would have 200% of the 300% charge required to 3-turn already covered by this skill should you manage to get the cooldown reduced. Well, with a double Koyanskaya setup, you're going to end up having another 100%, and that is your 300 right there. So you don't technically need the 3rd support. This is one of the ways in which Arcuied is just a very quick and easy unit to use. You can just go in there with a double Koyanskaya Arcuied setup with Atlas Institute and just laugh at things a lot of the time. The problem with this is, remember, she's a neutral damage dealer and you don't have the firepower of Plug Suit and a 3rd support. So we're not dealing effective damage and we don't have crazy scaling necessarily in this sort of setup. This is where, again, the discussion about Noble Phantasm levels is going to kind of creep in. And I will talk about that as we actually get to her Noble Phantasm, but it is definitely something to be seen, as you're going to have to weigh sort of the amount of nodes you would like your Arcuied to be able to do when you consider getting additional Noble Phantasm levels for her. And again, like I said, we'll break that down a little bit more here in a minute, but definitely this is the nice aspect to this skill, is that it is 100% charge. Now we're on to the 3rd skill. This is going to grant the entire party invincibility for 1 attack for 3 turns. This is actually really nice, especially if you're running some sort of Koyanskaya setup, because you don't really have survivability built into the kit. So now instead, the actual damage dealer is going to provide a little bit of survivability. It's not enough to kind of keep you alive down the stretch, but it is enough to at least sort of, maybe soak an NP or something like that if it happens at the wrong time. This is a nice skill, but it's probably not going to be the main reason by which you use it. In fact, even the next line is also not going to be the main reason you use this skill. We'll just go ahead and skip to it. Basically, she will charge the entire party's NP gauge except for herself, as long as you are on the Millennium Castle battlefield. This is a new field type, and it's not handled like other field types. Because the reason is, normally whenever we change the field with someone's skills, it is done by virtue of appearing on their buff bar. It is a sort of non-visible change. With Arcuied, this is new and unique. Not only will it change the background of the wave that you apply it in, it will also change, again, the buff location. It will not go on her bar. It will go up on the top right near where your master is. That is a unique way of handling it, and it definitely begs the question of whether or not the devs will start to work in other things like this buff in the future. Still, we haven't seen hide nor hair of anything like this in the 2 years since Arcuied has been out, but who knows? Maybe it's a taste of things to come. Either way, it is certainly an interesting way to handle a battlefield buff, because it means that even if you kill Arcuied, the field will stay. It will actually continue to be there until you move fields, and basically it wears off. This is an interesting thing because it makes her not the source. The buff is just out there on its own. And interestingly enough, it will get carried 2 additional waves regardless. So it does not necessarily have to be reapplied every single turn. Once it's put up, it is there until it expires. Definitely an interesting way of handling it. But the interesting aspect to this is going to be, again, that the NP is what actually applies the Millennium Castle battlefield buff. So after she does that, then she is going to be able to charge the entire party by up to 30%. This makes her, in a weird way, a sort of like cheeky, easy, like 30% party charger, a la someone like Koyanskaya of Dark. And in a weird way, just like Koyanskaya of Dark, while she does have this supportive capability, she's also a little bit more selfish for herself and wanting to kind of, actually be the center of attention. So unfortunately, she doesn't charge herself this 30%. But the good side about this is that she will help maybe potentially another support get to their NP to do so. And that can actually be really nice. So we'll talk about that here in a second as well. But you can see this skill is all going to be on a 6-turn cooldown, which means, again, you can get it back on turns 1 and 3. So you could potentially do this multiple times in a 3-turn cadence. The only problem is, again, on turn 1, you would not have Millennium Castle Battlefield applied yet, which means your fastest application would be turn 2, which means you would only get it back on turn 4, not turn 3. So that's definitely going to be the problem in that scenario, is whenever we're trying to 3-turn, you're probably only going to get one actual usable application, unless you're after the other aspects of this skill. So again, we already talked about the invincibility, so that now leaves the fact that it's going to increase the party's buff removal resistance if they are good alignment. What does that mean? That means you will not be able to strip the buffs off of people in Arcuid's party if they are good alignment thanks to this. Now, interestingly enough, obviously the logical pairing for her is going to be someone like Koyanskaya of Light, and you're not going to have good alignment with her. But there may be other units where this actually would come into play, and it really just depends on sort of the setup that you're trying to use with her. Obviously, lawful good, you do have someone like Merlin that could certainly work with her, so there are going to be some people that you might actually combine her with on this. But yes, naturally, this is not going to be something that just in the general course of farming is even remotely useful to you. This is going to be more for challenge applications. And while I say that, I will say that this is going to be really nice for someone like him that's going to buff her. And he's not the only one who is out here as classified as good. As again, you can see there's Zerker Artoria basically, and essentially Caster Artoria here as well. So in a challenge environment, yes, you might actually have a Castoria alongside her, even if it weren't the case of, actually being the correct buff type to actually help out Arcuied. At least you would have Solemn Defense. and Arcuied would be able to help a Castoria get to her NP. So it'd definitely be a nice thing to have. Okay, so now with that, we've kind of covered the third skill here, and you guys can see it's a very nuanced skill, but it's very nice in what it can do for the party. Then we get to her crazy passives, and I say crazy because you can see there's just a ton of them. So she gets Magic Resistance A+ for 21% debuff resistance, Territory Creation EX for additional arts card performance for those 2 arts cards, definitely nice. Item Construction A to increase her own debuff success rate. Independent Action A to increase her critical damage by 10%. So again, just extra actual damage there. Something that normally archers only have, but I guess, hey, Moon Cancer, why not? And then the unique passive of Original One, which is that whenever the Millennium Castle battlefield is in play, increases her own quick arts and buster performance by 30%. So Arcuied gets a little bit stronger after that first NP. And that's actually really good design because, again, units that maybe have multi-turn duration buffs, but that maybe one aspect of the skill is only a single turn duration, means that when you're trying to pop it early in a 3-turn cadence, that you may be getting some benefit on turn 1, but then not again for the rest of the 3-turn. Instead, Arcuied's going to ramp up over time, and that's going to be nice. Now, you're not going to get the benefit of this stacking multiple times, but it is a really, really good effect to have, given the fact that it's not only going to increase her NP, it's going to increase all of her card performance as well. So definitely a really solid buff to have. Now, with regards to her append skills, obviously there is something to consider with mana loading. The thing with Arcuied is, unless you're taking her into a non-conventional team comp, you are not going to need her mana loading. She is definitely one of the units in the game where you're going to have to make a strong case for actually needing it. That being said, there might be some, especially if you're trying to just have her maybe take out one wave and buff someone else. But I'm going to say it's certainly just going to be this like consideration that you have, but maybe not the best use of your coins. Her third skill here is going to be anti-foreigner attack damage aptitude as well, which might not be the best either. She's certainly going to have some applications, but not necessarily a crazy thing. So, and part of this is going to be because of the actual super effective niche that Arcuied has on her actual NP. It's actually going to kind of have some synergy here with foreigner enemies. So this might be the best use of her of her append, but it just kind of depends on how you want to use the coins. Again, we don't fight that many foreigners in the game, so to me, probably one of the better options is actually going to be the extra attack finesse, but it really just depends on how much you want to use your Arcuied and what situations you find yourself using her in more farming applications versus more challenge applications. Totally up to you. I'm going to say, out of all the units that I've reviewed, this one is certainly a wash across the board. It very much is a pick your own poison type of situation. There is not, to me, a clear front runner for which one should be taken. You can't really go wrong with the extra attack finesse, but you may find that one of the other ones might actually just be more situationally useful for you and your account. So in that regard, just kind of make your best choice for what you think would work well on her. Now we get to the Noble Phantasm damage in and of itself. So she is a 4-hit AoE buster NP, as you guys can see here, and she will change the field to Millennium Castle battlefield for 3 turns, activating first. That's what I said. Even if you manage to kill her, it does not go away until that 3-turn buff duration expires, which is a really interesting aspect to it. It's going to then deal damage to all enemies. So the good part about this is, boom, there you go. She is going to have this right away. And then, as you guys can see, she will deal extra damage to enemies with the chaotic alignment. The interesting thing to denote about this is with normal units, the NP level scales the damage, and that just is the way it is. With Arcuied, you obviously have this, but you also have additional scaling added to each additional NP level. She is going to scale her super effective anti-chaotic modifier based off the number of NP levels of her you get. Say what you want, but this is strong. Now, the interesting part about this is also kind of scummy the way you want to think about it. Because while this is strong, this does sort of extra incentivize you to roll for additional NP levels for her. Because you can see, even the first copy is going to bump that up from 150% already to 175. Now, I'm going to say it's not a requirement by any stretch of the imagination, but this is definitely something that we should consider across the board with every neutral damage dealer that we try to take into a node. Is NP1 enough? For most normal units, the answer to this is yes. For neutral loopers, it can be, but it's definitely going to impact the level of node they can handle. So, I think there are multiple ways you can think about this. Either you can choose to say, you know what, I don't care, NP1 is enough, I just want my collection copy. And that's perfectly fine. Or you can say, you know what, I do care, I'm going to start trying to get a bunch of NP levels and make sure that my Arcuied is as robust as possible and can handle as much content as possible. And then there's the in-between take, which is probably that you can go, you know what? I can probably either sit here and, kind of maybe grab an NP2, and then she'd be able to do a whole bunch of nodes with that. Or maybe I say, I'm only going to use my Arcuied when it's an actual chaotically aligned enemy. And at that point, then I'm probably still okay with NP1. So it really just depends on how you want to think about this. The reason that I say that there is this idea that you might want a second NP level with a neutral damage dealer is because they're not dealing effective damage. This does limit the amount and sort of like the HP values of the nodes that you can handle. That is to say, when we start running these numbers for you and actually show you the damage capability of a unit, you start to be able to see, oh, hey, well, yeah, when they're actually in an effective niche, they're going to blow them out of the water. But when they're not, all of a sudden, it maybe looks a little bit hairy, as you might be seeing them sitting there doing 200, 300k, and you might be staring a 90++ node in the face in the future, where the enemy just is sitting there with 1,000,000. And that ends up being a problem. That's why neutral damage dealers, I'm not going to say they fall off and are unusable, but they are certainly harder to use, and you can't use them in every node like you used to be able to. So this is why I say there is this consideration with regards to NP levels. Do I think you have to roll an additional NP level of Arcuied? No. But I do think the amount of NP levels that you do roll will impact kind of directly the level of node that you can handle with her. It doesn't mean that you might not be able to do a 90++ node with Arcuied at NP1. You might if the stars align and you actually have a chaotic enemy and maybe a damage C floating around. That is certainly a possibility. But the second we start trying to think about handling something that's maybe not directly aligned with her niche, yeah, then that might actually begin to, be a consideration for should we take her to that node. So again, it's up to you to determine if you want your Arcuied to try to be able to do functionally everything, or if you think that you're just okay having her and wanting her to do what she is already good at, rather than trying to make her work in every possible node that you can. So again, it's your choice, but this is the type of thing you should consider. Now, with that in mind, let's go ahead and look at the notes here on Millennium Castle Battlefield. You can see when the party moves to the next stage, the field graphic will be reset. However, Millennium Castle Battlefield's effect is still continued. So this is carried to the next wave. It's just the background won't still look like the Millennium Castle. The icon on the top right corner of the battle screen indicates this buff is active. So as long as it's there, you're good, even if the background doesn't seem to be Millennium Castle. Tapping on it will also show the duration, as you will have a new way where you can actually select it. And then Millennium Castle Battlefield cannot be removed because it's attached to the field itself, not servants. So we already talked about how it can't leave her if she dies. You also can't buff strip it. It's just there. It's not attached to the servant. It is technically only like overwritable if they actually put a counter skill in the game that doesn't exist as of this current point in time. Millennium Castle Battlefield is stackable if you use the NP in successive or alternate turns. Millennium Castle Battlefield is removed if Archetype Earth is defeated. So there you go. It actually is removed if defeated. And again, that's something you're going to definitely need to consider with regards to her, is how you want to handle this. I think Arcuied is going to be a very strong unit. I think that she is going to be somebody that is going to be somewhat game-changing in how she handles something like this. But it's not necessarily a gotta have. It's just a taste of how they can potentially handle things in the future. So we can take a look at the rest of this, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm going to say that you need to decide for yourself how many copies you want of her and whether or not you want her at all. So let's now then, after all of that being said about Millennium Castle Battlefield and her NP, look at the overcharge effect. She will charge the NP gauge of living human allies except for herself. Now, there's not a whole lot of living human allies, but there are some. So again, just taking a quick gander at this, really, to me, most of these are not going to be units that you will probably take alongside Arcuied. Again, you might be using someone like Reigns or Waver. They might actually be a support that you would use alongside, or maybe even someone like Kuro in a crazy enough sense if you really want it. But the majority of these units probably won't be paired with her, just depending on what your goals overall are. Maybe MASH in the case of a challenge fight. Still, it is an interesting thing, but I do find it interesting that they didn't do something like this attached to the NP and actually bring the chaotic extra damage down. So, now with that in mind, we can actually begin to talk about Arcuied's refund. And what do I mean when I say refund? Well, Arcuied's going to be a weird unit. She's a buster unit. She's not going to refund. But you are going to want to pay attention to cooldowns with Arcuied. So that is going to be one of the problems that you're going to have, is how do you juggle especially this second skill? With that in mind, we're going to start talking about actual comp structure as well as damage output for her. Because again, I don't really have to give you too much advice with regards to the craft essences for Arcuied. You're probably going to want to use Black Grail or any other craft essence that is powerful and allows you to start from zero. There are numerous recommendations we could give you for this, but ultimately at the end of the day, with a unit that you can start from zero on, the sky's the limit and you can use any craft essence that you actually think works with her. So, talking about her actual self buff damage numbers first, you can see she basically, these are neutral numbers. Again, remember, because she is a moon cancer, and just in general, we like to show these as neutral. You can see basically she has her normal numbers, and these are relatively, again, normal looking. They don't look too crazy here. In fact, at NP5, you're only doing 50k. But with self buffs only, so this is not including mystic codes, craft essences, supports, things like Koyanskaya or Oberon actually coming into play here. This is just Arcuied under her own numbers. And then we have the anti-chaotic niche. And you can already see just in the relationship between these two, just how powerful that is. And the gap actually begins to widen slightly. And this is due to, again, the scalability of her NP and the fact that she is going to get even more off of that. So that is why she ends up kind of just being stronger and stronger and stronger, is due to that scaling on the additional NP levels. So again, that's going to be her base damage. From there, let's go ahead and talk about our first scenario in terms of charge for her. This is going to be a Koyanskaya of light with double Oberon. And there's kind of three different, I would say almost four different, but we're only going to really cover three different comps that you can really run Arcuied in. These are Arcuied devoted comps, so keep in mind that there's always the mix and match type of stuff that you can do. But you guys can see in this sort of scenario, the way the charge breakdown would actually work is essentially you're going to sit here with basically the 20% eaches on this, and again, a 50% off of Koyanskaya of light, essentially kind of starting with her and rotating her out for the other Oberon. And from there, she needs 10%. So this is probably a scenario in which you actually would want to have her append unlocked, or again, have some other way of getting it. But as long as you can get that 10% somehow, boom, there you go. She's going to actually have 100% to fire off the first NP. On wave 2, you're just going to go ahead and pop her charge skill. That's going to actually be really nice, and again, not make it so that you have a ton of button presses. Remember, that's going to be kind of the really nice aspect to Arcuied. It's just going to be a fast and easy 3-turn in a lot of scenarios. A really, really, really just like kind of easy to use unit. So from there, you're just going to go ahead and fire off the NP the second time. And then for wave 3, you're just going to go ahead and use both the remaining Oberon 50% charges. And that's enough. So that will actually do the trick. The issue with using a comp like this is we're not using cooldown reduction, so we're not getting to double up on Arcuied's own skills. But we're also going to kind of get the spike damage on wave 3 from the double Oberon third skills. It's just waves 1 and 2 are probably going to suffer a little bit for damage in a comp like this. Wave 3 will spike really hard. Wave 1 and 2, be careful. Make sure you have enough firepower to actually take out the node in this circumstance. So, taking a look at her actual damage in this scenario, you guys can see, again, this is going to be basically Neo Plug Suit, and this is Neo Plug with skill 1 delayed until wave 3. Because remember, you're not going to have the ability to actually double up skills. You can't pop it on turn 1 and turn 3 in this scenario. As a result, the best damage output is by delaying it until wave 3, but keep in mind, waves 1 and 2 damage, as we already said, not that great. So that's definitely an issue at play. So in the scenario in which we were to pop it right away, you can see that early spike on wave 1, and then it actually dips down for wave 2 because we don't have that defense down anymore. Wave 3, certainly that hard spike, but again, these are neutral numbers with an actual comp in mind, with actual Mystic Codes and Craft Essences. So that is 300k neutral damage at NP1. That is not bad, but it might not be enough to overcome the strongest nodes in the entire game. And then certainly we also have the chaotic damage. And when the enemies are actually chaotic, this starts looking a lot better. You're probably a lot less likely to encounter chaotic enemies in turns 1 and 2, but certainly it is possible. And then from there, God, by wave 3, you've got a crap ton more damage. And then again, you can see NP2 just starts getting even nuttier as look at the scalability there and the difference between an NP2 and an NP1. This is why I said getting that second copy is going to make a huge difference, especially in niche. Even outside of niche, you can see we have almost a 100k difference in damage just by virtue of having that second copy. And then down here, with it actually being delayed so that we have the defense down on wave 3, the numbers for the first 2 waves look incredibly abysmal in that regard. It should be enough to kill most, but I'd say wave 2 is actually where you're really going to be a little bit suspect as to whether or not that will get you through the wave. And then obviously right there, you've got a little bit more spike damage compared to the prior iteration where we didn't double it up. And again, even more and even more as we start just getting dumb. It actually ends up being quite the force magnifier. Now remember, this is just MP1 and MP2, so imagine the scalability if you get more copies of her as well. And you start to realize some of the insanity of what people can do with an MP5 Arcuied, but a lot of that's going to be, again, within that chaotic niche. As long as you have an enemy that is chaotic for wave 3, she is going to obliterate them. If you don't, well, then you maybe have a little bit more to be concerned about. Now we'll talk about the next charge scenario. And this is the charge scenario that I'm going to be honest, I actually use the most with Arcuied. This is basically just double Koyanskaya and Atlas Institute Mystic Code. It just works. It's just fast. It just hits hard. It's just solid. So again, as long as you have this, it's okay. it's just going to do the least damage out of all of the Arcuied specs. So as long as you have a strong enough Arcuied to pull this off, this just makes farming a breeze. It's just easy and simple. So quite literally, wave 1, you're just going to start out by going ahead and popping Arcuied's 100% charge skill. Fire off that NP. You can also go ahead and pop the cooldown reduction skill after you've used the charge skill, so that it's just over and done with. Then from there, wave 2, you're going to go ahead and pop both Coin Sky of Lights, 50% charges on her. They're also the cooldown reductions. So with the cooldown reductions from them and the cooldown reduction from skill 3, the next turn, you're going to just instead pop the 100% charge skill again. That's it. Nice and easy. Simple 3-turn. Quite literally, 5 buttons. Not bad. So again, with that in mind, the damage though is going to have a little bit more of a concern to it. You can see we certainly had the ability to double up our skills, and that's going to result in, at least having both the buff up on turn 1, but also getting it back again for turn 2. But this is definitely a far cry from the amount of damage that we were seeing with the double Oberon spec, especially by wave 3. So again, if you want to do this, this is certainly where having that additional MP level can help. Can certainly increase the amount of nodes that you could pull an easy fluid comp like this off in, but it may be something that you want to consider as to whether or not you want to do it. You can see here again, the chaotic damage is going to be a lot better, but certainly maybe it's not enough, just depending on what you're actually fighting. The second we get to NP2, these shore up the numbers quite a bit more. It's still probably not going to be enough for 90++ content, because again, neutral damage. But if we're facing Berserkers, or again, heck, maybe it's actually going to be an Avenger in the 90++ node, boom, we're in. And we're going to be dealing effective damage at that point and actually getting a lot better than these numbers. Certainly as well, if the enemy is chaotic, there you go. You can start seeing it actually approaching even the NP1 of the more robust comp. And then basically, as you can see, we can also delay basically the second skill 1 to wave 3. It is what it is, but I'm going to say at the end of the day, you just kind of want to go ahead and use them, and it's up to you to kind of see what you want to do. This will make wave 2 a little bit spicier, but it will allow for wave 3 to be a little bit better if you manage it this way. Okay, and then next up, we've got our scenario number 3. And I'm going to call this sort of a catch-all scenario, because the one thing I really want people to understand is you do not have to have Summer Ibuki to pull this off. So, for instance, you can see that basically the way this one is going to work is we are going to have Arcuied double Koyanskaya of Light, and then Summer Ibuki with both her skill 1 and her skill 2. The Summer Ibuki is going to be nice because she actually can provide targetable cooldown reduction. You also, interestingly enough, due to the Millennium Castle battlefield effect, could allow Summer Ibuki to handle one of the waves if you want it. That's up to you because she is a 50% charger, but you don't have to do that if you don't want. Again, it's just an option for you there. The only downside to something like this is going to be using Plug Suit and having to rotate through. But it is an option for you. So you can see, we're going to go ahead and use her charge of 100% there on turn 1, use basically the cooldown reduction there, and then essentially end up with enough to fire off the NP, and then by turn 2, we're going to be doing the double Koyanskaya of Light buffs, and then again, have the cooldown reduction to get it back for turn 3 to have the 100% charge back again, and we're going to pop that again, and that is how you're going to complete the 3-turn. It is basically Atlas Mystic code with some extra steps, but extra damage because of that. So this is a way to stretch her damage. The thing is, like I already said, you don't have to have Summer Ibuki necessarily. You can technically use anyone that can provide some measure of cooldown reduction. She only needs one more turn reduced off of that second skill. So as long as you manage to get it, anyone technically works that has that. But yes, Summer Ibuki is definitely a very, very solid option for her in this sense. Now looking at the damage for her in basically scenario 3, you guys can see that we have, again, the setup right here. These are all Black Grail comps, all Neo Plug Suit. And you can see, again, the damage is going to be at least a little bit better, but still not quite where the, double Oberon setup was. And then from there, we've also got the Chaotic Niche, NP2, and NP2 with a Chaotic Niche. Again, you can also see we did factor in the delay of popping the second skill, or sorry, the first skill basically until wave 3, and boom, there you go. You get a lot more damage out of this. Essentially, as well, you've got the Chaotic and NP2 adding in here and getting even more. So kind of just more of the same of what we expected. So with that, you now have a greater understanding of Arcuid's actual damage output. So how does she stack up to the competition? Who is Arcuid's competition? This is an interesting concept to think about. Well, for starters, one of those might be Summer BB. She's also our other AoE buster Moon Cancer. And yes, you can 3-turn with her, and yes, it is very similar to the way that Arcuid works. The downside is we got to use a level 100 Summer Anniversary CE in order to pull this off, basically a 60% charge C, because we don't really necessarily have that ability to start from Black Grail like Arcuid does. So, with this in mind, you guys can see the amount of damage that you're actually going to get here. It's definitely not going to be bad, but it is going to be, again, not quite Arcuid numbers. And to me, I think the real issue that we're going to have here is certainly wave 1. At 39k, almost 40k, this might not be enough to clear a robust wave 1. So you got to be a little bit careful with something like that. But otherwise, by wave 3, again, that spike damage from Oberon, not bad. And certainly NP2 bumping it up quite a bit more. The other, I'm going to say, big consideration here is going to end up being Summer Kiara. Summer Kiara is going to be sort of her arts analog. And Summer Kiara is very infamous for how hard that she can hit with her third skill. And the damage showing in the brackets is in case her debuffs from skill 3 fail. So again, that's always going to be the possibility is the enemy has magic resistance and just doesn't allow it, or maybe they're debuff immune in some way, shape, or form. But you can see here, basically, she's a 2x Castoria with Oberon and Black Grail. She's going to be a little bit more comparable. And you can see the amount of damage spike there from that third skill. And basically the amount that it is going to just really allow her to pop off with. And it's definitely a nice thing for her to have. And you can see basically that Summer Kiara does kind of bonkers damage on her own. This has always been the case. It's something we've always known. The issue with Summer Kiara is more, can you loop her? Because her refund is not the best, even for an arts unit. She does have up to 50% charge in her kit, but you always have to weigh kind of getting the 50% charge versus using it for more kind of super effective damage off of her NP. So again, it is a consideration. But I wanted to branch out from this a little bit more and say, hey, we're maybe not all of our competition is just the Moon Cancers. Space Ishtar, I feel like, is sort of the kind of gold standard of neutral looping in the game. A lot of people get compared to her in that regard, so I wanted to kind of show here's where an Arcuid lands in relation to a Space Ishtar. And this is going to be sort of her best setup here with double Castoria and Oberon. Again, you guys can see she's definitely not going to be too great in the first 2 waves there, but should be passable. And by wave 3, she gets that nice Oberon spike, plus the fact that she has managed to build up basically her NP damage scaling over each NP. And so that's actually going to allow her to deal quite nice damage. NP2 spikes her quite a bit more. NP1 over here is going to be showing her with the success of her third skill's arts proc. Because again, you do have that 80% chance to proc. It will proc for you, hopefully, but 1 in every 5 attempts it doesn't. So we always kind of model it both with and without, just to kind of show you. But obviously things end up a lot better in that sense. And you can see most of these are kind of going to be a little bit better than Arcuid was showing, again, in that sort of idealistic comp for her with the 2x Oberon. But you always have that chaotic niche that can come into play and really kind of help outscale, again, a Space Ishtar. It just is what it is, and it may be something that you go after, but it might not be. Another one that I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of a sneak peek of things to come, is going to be Summer Ibuki. We already talked about using her as a possibility in pairing with Arcuied, so yeah, we may as well compare her to the new upcoming AoE Arts Berserker. Because again, that is going to be the consideration, is if I have to roll Summer Ibuki to work with Arcuied, why don't I just roll Summer Ibuki? So I think it is a fair claim to be made. And that's why I said, like, to do that comp, you do not have to use Summer Ibuki. There are other options for it so that you don't have this kind of quandary, if you will, as to like who to roll and why. So with Summer Ibuki, her best comp here is going to be double Castoria Oberon with a Black Grail herself. These are neutral numbers, which is kind of impossible for a Berserker to do unless they're beating up on MASH or something like that. So in that regard, do understand that Ibuki's numbers are going to be actually better than this in almost all situations that she's in. And so you can see this is basically going to be 1 times effectiveness rather than 1.5 times. So certainly this can actually be quite a bit more damage just raw at NP1. And at that point, you have to start asking yourself, do I necessarily roll for an Arcuied if I'm maybe already planning on getting Ibuki? In that regard, I can't answer that for you because you might really desire Arcuied just because you like the character or its design. But I can certainly say that Ibuki is probably going to win the damage race in most scenarios, but not all. She does have the Earth super effective niche, and that is going to really allow for a lot of extra damage there. But again, we have certainly seen units over time get crazy with sort of damage scaling down the line. And now even Summer Ibuki is technically not the damage king, even within her own class. So there is considerations in that regard as to whether or not you want to go after someone like Summer Ibuki. But again, I'll save that for the Summer Ibuki video. I do think the important point to understand here is that she's super effective against Earth versus Arcuied super effective against Chaotic. And so that may factor in. Maybe you just want to cover more of your bases and have that capability of dealing effective damage against a bunch of different enemy types. That's totally up to you, but I did feel like this was a comparison that was going to be drawn, especially for a lot of people that wanted to know which unit to roll on. And then last, but certainly not least, I figured let's go ahead and throw Karen in here as a quick option, because again, Karen's damage is kind of nutty. She certainly does need 3 enemies in order to be able to loop, but not always, because she does at least have a lot of charge in her kit. And still, she is a Black Grail looper in that regard, and so you can see, even though she's doing neutral damage, by wave 3, these are pretty disgusting numbers. And remember, you can always put in a, Angry Mango or something like that into the back line to get her a debuff to allow the damage to reach these numbers. So definitely a really, really nice one. But this felt like a good comparison since she is also anti-chaotic and neutral. So at that point, Karen is to a degree going to be someone that you're actually going to be doing a lot of comparing to. And so again, looking back at this and basically the Arcuied comp here, you guys can see at NP1, you're looking at 299 versus 449 versus again, Karen basically being 408 versus 612. The difference here is Karen has already had an NP interlude, so that's obviously going to factor things in. But this is why, again, I'm going to say there may be that consideration of maybe additional NP levels. I'm not going to try to pressure you to do that. It's just up to you to decide what you want to justify, and again, how much you wish to use the unit. So, I hope this video has been informative for you. Thank you all for watching. I will see you guys for the Shufu video next. And again, you stay classy. I'll see you for the next one. Chat, I fucked that up. I fucked that up so bad. But I was so deep into the video that I did not want to restart. You had a bunch of mistakes? I did. And I know I did. And I caught myself with a bunch of mistakes. And I was like, Karen doesn't need mango if she has Black Grail. Yeah, I'm just saying it's another way that you can get it. So, Archetype Earth I literally said that it does not remove multiple times. And I'm going to have to find a way to edit this. Because, again, I could have sworn this was the case. I could have sworn it stayed on if she was defeated. But I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. And then straight up, like, it's stackable. But, chat, correct me if I'm wrong. The Millennium Castle battlefield is stackable, but you don't get more of the Quicken Arts up. It is just, this is a one-off. And it's just here as long as you have this active. One-off. Okay, so I'm at least right here. Thank God. It's this one that I have to do it. That I have to like find all the times that I said that it didn't and correct myself. Of the G-Man passive, that would be broken. That's true, yeah, she has G-Man as a passive. Oh, yes, that's true. I did say that she didn't have it on the first MP. Thank you. I did also catch that one. Because I was like, oh, yeah, she doesn't have it. She does. Oh, God. I can only blame myself for this one. I did not do my due diligence on this one like I should have. I'll go back and I'll make sure that the video gets made properly and correctly for this. And again, just accept my sincere apologies for the fact that I fucked up while recording it, because that is not normal for me. I have Arcuied. I've used her a lot. These are the sorts of minutia on some of the units that, like, when I'm going through, I'm sure of it, but then I actually read and I go like, because I know I got it wrong. Is when an enemy is man and chaotic? Yeah, that's definitely a consideration. It's okay, Cab, we can all make mistakes. Oh, I know, I just don't like making them when I'm recording a video, right? Like, again, you guys know, I want the video to be accurate for you, so I'll make sure it gets corrected. But it is a problem. I know what happens to her because I use her a lot, yeah. But, in the end, it doesn't really impact the advice that I gave. I do think the eye-opening thing is seeing the amount of damage Arcuied does compared to other units, and you see why they did the NP scaling the way that they did. Why they made it do so much more damage. They knew. They 100% knew what they were doing with this and how they wanted to handle it. Like, it's why they sat here and said, like, okay, well, this is going to be the damage that it is, and she's going to be neutral, but then we're going to add this so that you have an additional reason to roll for that additional copy. So I kind of like low-key don't like that they did this, but also if they didn't do this, I'm not sure anyone would roll Arcuied other than they really like the character. Is it just natural to keep Arc in A2? So I feel like Arc in A2 is faster. Like her actual NP animation changes slightly, and I believe that it's faster. If she had no chaotic damage niche, she'd be really bad IMO. I mean, you say that. I have straight up seen people just waltz through nodes with an NP5 like super Arcuied and just be like, and just like not care that it's 90 plus. So it does happen. Like, it's just, I don't really judge things based off of that. I don't think that a unit should be judged off of its NP5 numbers. And that's kind of the problem that I think you have when you have double scaling for NP levels like this. It sort of extra incentivizes it. An Arcuied to use with Doman, for example, Ascension 2 doesn't work for the buff. I mean, yes. But that's like, this is kind of why I said this, is like, this is really not going to come into play. I have never had it come into play. because you're probably not going to pair her with Doman. You're going to pair Doman with Doman. And that's kind of the issue with this, is like, there's not a lot of people that can even impact this sort of thing. And most of those units you're not going to be running alongside Arcuied. Who you're going to run alongside Arcuied is Koyanskaya, Merlin, Oberon, and then anyone else that can do cooldown reduction. That's pretty much it. You might use her to fire off an NP on wave 1, kill, and then basically use her Millennium Castle battlefield to give everybody else 30% charge. So that she can set them up. But I don't like that would be a like double damage dealer or triple damage dealer type setup. What about a double arc setup? I mean, you can do that. Is there any advantage to it? Not particularly. Because the thing you guys got to remember too, can you do triple DPS setups? Yes. Is it a good idea? Only if you're a whale. The majority of the time, you're not going to have enough actual like buffage in a group like that to actually be able to deal enough damage to kill a wave. The obvious exception is when the triple damage dealer setup is double Oberon and Koyanskaya. And that's because they just are the buffers anyways. Osafomon, thank you for the follow. Chat, that was a long recording. Ethan, thank you for the follow as well. Oko wouldn't work because it's way too much work. I think the big reason, and I'm dead serious on this, chat, the big reason you take Archetype Earth, she is so easy to use. It's why I pointed this out, okay? Everyone's gonna bitch about the damage numbers left and right. This comp is the tits. I love this comp. I just go in and go, ha ha, burr, and I don't care. I just do. I just do it. Is this gonna work in 90++ content? No. This is gonna work in 90 and 90+ though. And it's just gonna laugh at things. And you're not gonna care because it's just a 5-button press comp that works on functionally everything at those levels. So it's why I'm still definitely rolling Arcuied because it's just one of those things where she is just such a nice option to have. Also, I think I caught this on the first one. I was sitting here thinking you didn't give me the append, but what was this, by the way? Was this a Mystic code? That's the okay. I assumed it was, and I didn't want to like during the recording be like, "Oh, we got that wrong." I messed up the line. Yeah, that's fine. Because I was like, and then after I finished this and I was talking about the next one, in my brain, behind all of my talking, I was like, it might have been 10% off of a Mystic code. So I just wanted to make sure. And you said unlock the second append. I said you probably don't need to. Because again, and I really do mean this, like, chat, which append is best? All three are meh. Yeah, I can make a good case for the third because she's anti-chaotic. And when you're anti-chaotic, chat, there's a crap ton of foreigners that are chaotic. It is a thing, right? There you go. There's two right there. There's one right there. Oh, look. Chaotic evil. So, like, yes, the majority of your foreigners are chaotic. You just don't fight them that often. So that's the biggest problem with this. I shouldn't have said that you couldn't double up the third skill. I remember talking about doubling it up. The problem with doubling it up is basically that, like, you're not necessarily going to, like, get a good benefit out of it, right? So, what I meant when I said that was you can double it up. You can pop it on turns 1 and 3. However, if you pop it turn 1 before the NP, you do not get the benefit. So there's almost no point. If that makes any sense. I maybe should have clarified that a little bit better, but... Chaotic Bride, that a thing? Yes, Nero Bride. Can't you pop it turns 2 and 3 with Atlas? Yes. Here's the thing about that. Okay, now you got 60% party charge. But you took Atlas. And you had to take double Koyanskaya. So even if every Koyanskaya has their append, neither Koyanskaya can NP. Because they had to use all their charge on Arcuied. It's still not enough, right? Like, it is what it is. So, like, yes, you can do that. There's just no real point to it. No one even has the bride trait. I still think that going back in the day that was sort of their ideas, that they were going to give the bride trait to more people. And dear God, that is a miss. Because I think that they should have. I think that we should have more than just Nero Bride. We should have Saber Bride. We should have, like, Medusa Bride. We should have, like, so many brides, chat. Bride, yeah. No, everyone should get a bride except Tamamo. I'm just kidding. Obviously, people would demand it for Tamamo because Nero got it, right? Liz Bride for next Halloween? Now that's a horror movie. No, I'm just kidding. Astolfo Bride? No, not Astolfo Bride. No Astolfo Bride. Odds of a bride event in the future? At this point, very low. I'm not going to say they couldn't do it. It's just very low. Give me Liz Bride. Hello, Moons. Giga Chad face to my fellow Raiko enjoyers, right? Yeah, in a weird way, they could also do grooms. They could do the men in, like, tuxedos and, like, really, like, fancy clothing and stuff. So it's like there's still so many good ideas. Like we've pointed this out, chat. They've never had, like, a race queen event. We've had, like, races. They just didn't make anyone a race queen, really. Like, we now have a race queen as of the last summer event, but, like, again, there's some really good ideas that they've still just never touched. Do a bunny girl event? Yeah. And we actually have enough to do that one, so. Saber Wars 3 win, right. We could just put a waifu in a bunny costume, or in a bunny girl costume, and make a fuck ton of money. Oh yeah, absolutely. We already know that, chat. We literally already know that. That is the main selling point for Shisho after, like, year 4 of the game, right? Like, straight up, it's, hey, look, I'm hot. I'm hot. I'm hot. I'm hot. Oh no, I'm a bunny girl. And she goes, Pyon. Mm. I want more bunnies, right? Which is really funny because Aoko came into the game and they literally have the bunny girl form as a skill press, but not as an actual normal outfit for her, which I hate. They absolutely should have. But who knows? Maybe down the line they'll do Aoko Summer and she'll have a bunny outfit for one of her forms. Alice also has the penguin suit, right? Yeah, Saber Stealth was already a bunny, chat. Is the bunny outfit in her concept art, right? The machinations of the dev team are beyond us. It's not even the dev team. I think it's just Type Moon. I think it's like Nasu. I think either Nasu or Takeuchi is sitting there and like one of them says like, I want this. And the other one says, no, we can't do that. And I think that's just all it is. They just keep going back and forth and butting heads. Kat, do you still do account reviews? I haven't done them in a long time. Summer lip situation, yeah. Bunny Shisho isn't animal trait, but Bunny Astolfo is. Yeah, I'm sorry. Well, no, hold on. Bunny Shisho is animal trait. Right there. But like there's a ton of these where like I feel like there should be more units that actually qualify for this. Bakin isn't. Yeah, Bakin isn't. Though to be fair, Bakin herself is not a dog. So, like there's some interesting ones here, and then there's ones where you're like, wait, why not? And I struggle to remember them off the top of my head, but occasionally I do run into them, and I just go like, huh? Chiron? Yeah, so Chiron's not here, even though he is quite literally half horse. No Asterios. Yeah, I feel like Asterios should have it because he is a Minotaur. Oh no, he is here. He is here. Group servant trade is a scam. Yes. Tiamat is what kind of animal? I don't know. A mom. Mothers are like animals, right, chat? I'm sorry to any mothers in the audience. And she should, is Shiki counts? Yeah. Humans are animals at the end of the day, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure they have to draw the line somewhere, but there still feels like there's the occasional one that just gets left out, and you're like, what? And to me, the funny one is like Bunyan has it, but only in costume, right? And it's the same thing as like Bunny Shisho. It's like you're literally just wearing that. Why does that qualify as animal-like characteristics? So I think they did it just to like flesh it out, but I don't know. Which actually, hold on. Didn't we get the bunny ears also for Assassin? And yet she's not here. No, we didn't? Okay. I could have sworn we did. Yeah, oh well. Shiba literally has animal ears for no reason. Shiba? There's a reason for that. Korean is picky about her choices. I mean, maybe, right? I don't know. I don't know. It is definitely an interesting thing, though. But yeah, like, I don't know. I still think Arcuied definitely is a good unit. You're going to get a lot of people that are going to get a pissing contest about damage. And I think at the end of the day, this is the same thing that everyone's going to have to decide for themselves is like, which one of the OP as fuck units coming out do you want? Because we can kind of just keep going down the list and be like, well, chat, why did you need Melisson? Melison's not the top damage dealer in the game. Why do you need Arcuied? Arcuied's not the top damage dealer in the game. Why do you need Ibuki? Ibuki's not the top damage dealer in the game. This is kind of the problem that you end up having. It's like, you have to decide which one you want, because they're all going to get passed eventually, because that's just how the game is going right now. So I will, so I can get them all, and that's fine, right? Meta chasing never ends. Yes. Now you realize it is eternal, chat. It will literally always continue to go on. Because, like, we can sit there and we can look at, like, Kukulkan and Tiamat and be like, damn, they do damage. And then out comes Super Kukulkan and Super Tiamat. And, like, it's just, it starts getting, like, dumb. But it's a thing. As a big Arc fan, having her from JP is enough for me. Time for the new quick meta support. Yeah. And that's all I'm going to try to say, is I'm going to tell people again, you do not have to have her. Because this is going to be the pissing contest that everyone's going to have. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to roll... I'm not going to roll Arcuied. Ibuki's better. And you're going to be like, okay, but Ibuki's already beaten on JP, so what do we do? Like, you can't win. If you want Ibuki, roll Ibuki. If you want Arcuied, roll Arcuied. If you want, X or Y servant, roll them. That's really all it boils down to. And I'm going to say this, you do not have to have them all. You maybe have to have one. And I'm going to say have to is a loose term. You do not. Like, you can get away without having any of the cracked units nowadays and still do really solid work. Who is the highest 3-turn damage dealer? Depends. Are we in effective niche? Are we allowing any possible comp? So, like, do you want to know what's crazy about the likes of, like, Kukulkan? Yeah. Whenever we're talking most of these units, they all have one thing in common. They all touch Black Grail. She doesn't. And she's still in that damage consideration with them. The thing is, we can make her touch Black Grail. We can design a comp in which she can. And that gets dumb. That gets actually dumb. So it's probably Cuckoo with a Black Grail. It's just... Again, it really depends on niche and stuff like that. Ba-da-da. Personally, I just summon for units that interest me. Yes, and I think that's the best way to handle it. So my favorite Star Wars song? Still the only Star Wars song I know. No, I'm just kidding. I know plenty of Star Wars songs. I just roll what I want and get a higher NP of who I want. Yeah, and I like, you guys know, I talk about this all the time, but it probably would make a good, like, video topic for one day, is like, hey, let's talk about damage and FGO and why it's, like, not as big of a deal as people think it is. The entire community gets, like, bent out of shape about, like, dick measuring, but chat, Oberon exists in the game, your argument's invalid. Like the second he's there, we start doing monopoly damage. Like it's dumb. It's literally just, like, crazy. And all that really matters is that you have somebody to take to the node. And this is, I think this is an important concept to understand too. Chat. Let's say you have a unit that does 1 million damage. Is this a good thing? Yes and no. Why do you say no? Does it clear the node with it? If so, yes. Okay, Avalon's got a way of thinking. It's one of the ways of all time. Depends. Does it kill? Okay, so this is kind of the interesting idea to think about, chat. Let's go ahead and assume for the purposes of this argument that this is 1 million damage to each individual unit. And we're dealing with an AoE damage dealer. Now, we've hit some 1 million HP single enemies in a node. But 90++ content, if we're talking AoE, we don't need 1 million damage. Like, the most you're going to see there is something like 700k. So, is this 1 million good? I mean, yeah, good damage, but the thing about this is, do you need this? No, you only need 700k, and it doesn't matter how you get it. And maybe the node doesn't even have 700. Maybe the node only has like 500. Maybe it's not the highest node ever, right? Like, at that point, you don't care. Because every point after this number is wasted, right? So if we even go to like 501, this 1 point of extra damage, technically a waste. So now we start talking about 300,000, 500,000 points of extra damage. We don't need it. It's stupid, right? Like, I think there's definitely something to be said about like, hey, but with that extra damage, I might be able to get away without the damage C, and thus I might be able to run a 6-slot comp. There's definitely some validity to that approach. But for the majority of people, you're not getting like, you know, NP5, a super unit, that sort of thing. So you're probably running the 5-slot comp, and you're probably running the damage CE. And at that point, getting the additional NP levels, getting the unit that does dumb damage, it's not as imperative, because the majority of people can probably end up doing it, right? Well, I say the majority of people. This is actually one of the gripes that I have with 90++ content. It's not the majority of people. A lot of your good 5 stars with charge can do it, is probably the better way to say it. But this is sort of the takeaway that I have at this point, is that, and I've had this mentality from before 90++ existed. 90++ has challenged that thought process, that mentality. Because pre-90++ chat, did you need additional NP levels? I'll even give you this. Pre-Oberon, did you need additional NP levels? So there was only really one place in the entire game that you did. And it's debatable as to if you did. And that place is pretty much only when you needed 3-turn efficiency, and that only really occurs in a lotto. The only time you kind of must have it. And I say must because it's just, it directly impacts your ability to farm. Even then, depending on the right lotto node, you guys have seen all the lotto guides we've put out over the years. Did you have to have, you know, extra NP levels for really any node? No, I think just about every single node out there was doable with an NP1 with 90+ content pre-Oberon. So you just had to have the right NP1, or again, a maybe robust NP2. But like, you really didn't need it. As long as you had built your account correctly, you were good. And that was a big rallying point for the game that I like to really harp on. I like to say, Game is free to play friendly. It is not whaley. You do not have to do these things. There's some additional efficiency you can gain and get away with by being a whale. You don't have to. There's no requirement. The game does not require additional MP levels. And it was a good thing to talk about because it is a good point to make for, hey, this game doesn't have to be whaley and expensive. This game is good on your wallet, despite the way its gacha works in that regard. And then out comes 90++ content, and we start seeing them kind of needing to justify having additional MP levels because, oops, we slipped and fell, and oh god, there's Oberon everywhere. And that kind of is why that happened. So this is why I say, like, these concepts of how much damage do I have to have, why do I need to have it? You really got to think about that. Like, especially for each one of you individually as a player, how much do you need to farm? How efficient do you need to be at it? And what is your goal in FGO? Is your goal to gotta catch them all and basically have every single servant and get them all online and leveled? Or is your goal just to collect your favorites? And I think that's a good point that everyone needs to consider. And within that, are you a meta slave? Or are you somebody that's like, I'm going to say pragmatic, somebody that maybe is just going to get the things that they maybe need or think would be good upgrades, but after that, they don't care and they just kind of roll for what they want? No, that's actually a good mentality, Abandon. I'm actually glad that you're sitting here trying to correct me by saying this. And I say trying to correct me, but more just like making that point, right? Because like, I have preached that for a while, and it's really interesting to see that I feel like the community is finally beginning to come around to this concept that we don't have to do 90++. You don't have to do it. There's no requirement. Like, okay, let me correct myself. You have to do it one time. You must run the 90++ node one time to get the reward. After that, you don't have to keep doing it. You can step down to 90+, and it's not a huge loss in efficiency. So, again, I think it's up to you to determine what it is that you want. I think there is some advantage to doing plus, but it's not the end of the world if you don't do it. It's not going to be like, oh my god, the difference between a player that did 90++ and a player that didn't is not going to be that freaking huge. It's going to literally be like, maybe they got, greater quantities of certain resources that the plus node was dropping. And that's it. Like I really feel like that's probably the biggest difference. I looked at lottos after Fairy Cup 90+ at 6 slot is actually more efficient than 90+ 5 slot. Yeah. It's only Fairy Cup that was the outlier for lottos. Yeah, I believe that. And I think the issue isn't should you do 90+ 6 slot versus 90+ 5 slot. The issue is, can you do 90+ 6 slot? Because if you can, that does win. 90+ 6 slot is stupid efficient. But most people probably aren't going to be whaley enough to do that sort of stuff. Fairy Cup was the first lotto with it, right? Yes. 90+ 6 slot is hard. Oh, it is. It is. And I'm going to say, like, it's important to know that it exists as a possibility. It's also important to realize that most of you won't do it. Most of you will not have an account capable of doing it. Why? It requires usually an NP5 super unit. Usually. I will try. Yeah, it's okay to try. Just keep that in mind. Probably need a very specific comp and NP5 something. Yes. Oh, chat. In some cases, NP5 is not enough. What do I mean when I say a super unit? Like, you guys have heard me talk about Super Lartoria, right? Super Lartoria isn't just MP5. It's 120. It's gold phone. that's a super unit, right? Like you gotta squeeze every little bit out of the unit's effectiveness to have enough to do it in some cases. That has Bradamante and a Saber node, and it screws up everything. Oh, the Charlemagne node. Yeah, the real problem isn't even Bradamante. The real problem is Charlemagne and the fact that he's star attribute. And they did it all so that they could run another banner for him. It was stupid. But that was just the way that it was. All right, chat. So I thought we would play some Traveler's Rest. If you guys have never seen this game, it was actually on Steam sale. It may still be on Steam sale. Aha! Zephyr got it. I knew it. It looks really fun, and I've been enjoying it some. So we're gonna go ahead and play it, and I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of a peek at it. Probably not a game that we'll play like consistently on stream or anything like that, but the way to think about this is it is Stardew Valley for a like medieval tavern. And I mean that. You can see it's very, very similar. Tomatomo shines for that note, actually, yes. Okay, I actually don't remember what I was doing. So we can also sprint in this game. Let me just double check the cellar here. We'll go pass out. Yep, no problem. So you can see I haven't built a whole bunch yet. Waking up at 6 a.m. is rough. It is. I'm aware. How much money do I have? I have like 5 gold now, so I'm actually doing okay. Let's buy a little bit more barley. Just so I have enough to keep making soup. I could have sworn I got seeds. Dual hops? Okay. Go ahead and do that. An enchanted broom. What? What? I have no idea what that is. Is this just better than the broom I have? I don't know. Yeah, I need the rice. Go ahead and drag it onto my bar. Then, do I have anything else? I've got barley grain. That's a tree. Got flour. Oh, melon seeds. So again, you can actually like grow stuff here. Oh wait, no, hold on. That's actual rice. That's not even the grain anymore. Let's get the melon seeds in. Still needs to be damp. Okay. Oh good, the tree finally grew. Hold on, let me cut this down. What's the command to view the art on stream? It's exclamation point art. And then... No, I actually need my hoe. The nice part about this is it doesn't have some of the annoying tedium of Stardew, where I basically end up having instead like I don't have to go like refill the water of my watering can. Do I have any other things to plant here? No, that's the flour, that's rice, that's barley. Roasted barley. Wort. Also no fatigue meter. There's no fatigue meter, but you definitely can, like, have to go to bed. And there's also, like, orders that you can fulfill. There's a calendar in the same way so you can see when stuff is. I'm not sure, like... Yeah, okay, so I can't even see, like, the trend stuff. I'm not high enough tavern level to have everything unlocked yet. But basically, this is all stuff that I've built. Sounds like quality of life, which is neat. There are some, but it doesn't necessarily have, like, everything else that Stardew has. Like, there is no town as of yet or anything like that. I'm not really sure what the end goal is. I do know eventually I can turn this also into, like, an inn, which is something. Okay, let's roast the barley. Malt the barley. I need actual hops for that. I don't have. Looks like I have enough to make another mild ale, so we'll do that. Wait, what was this? Oh, this is flour. I haven't, like... I don't really have a use for flour yet. At least not yet. I'm sure there will be some eventually. I'm actually going to go back outside, chop a little bit of wood. Just to make sure that I have enough for, enough firewood, because you need fuel for a lot of the benches. And fuel is just as simple as getting firewood. And we'll also grab this sucker. So you can see it's only 9 o'clock. You ended up liking Stardew, right? Yeah, I like Stardew. It's interesting. It, like, I think the only problem that I have in Stardew is eventually I get to a point where I'm not quite sure what I really need to be doing to progress, because the game doesn't tell you all of its inner workings and stuff. But you can see there's also quality of life where, like, stuff will just, like, gravitate towards me. Blacksmith table. Do I have one of those? I don't think I do. There's my, like, stone working facility is back here. I have no idea if you can expand this, so I may end up going like, oh crap. Need wood planks. Okay, in we go. And now we're actually going to kind of start the day. You can start technically at any time. I think it's O to open. Eventually people will come in. Oh, I'm out of candles. Okay, I have to actually put candles down. They go down over time. Wait, how do I clean? Does the magic broom not work like a normal broom? I feel cheated. Right now I'm only serving water. I do have some beer, but it's kind of making. So you can see the sprinting ends up making this, like, somewhat hairy. Throwing shit on the floor, I see. They do that. The disgruntled customers are the worst. And you have to keep cleaning their shit. Coasters actually help keep the tables clear. Dude, what? Okay, there we go. You can see it's already noon. And basically, you're grinding rep. You have reputation. It goes up over time. You don't want to miss it. You can only hold 5 drinks at any one given moment. My God, I swear these people just throw shit on the ground. Is this how it feels like to be a waiter, chat? Is it like always quite literally that you are like sitting here just like wondering why people just throw shit on your floor? Yes? Okay. I don't think I could ever work as a waiter. I would go off on people. I would quite literally keep hauling out the line my father raised me with, which is, do you live in a barn? Okay, so this is a disgruntled customer, so you gotta go up to them, you gotta calm them down. Sometimes they calm down, sometimes they do not. And if they don't calm down, you have to do something. And this gets worse if you have stuff in the kegs because you have to carry multiple drinks and be a lot more reactionary. The most I've had is 2 in the keg at any given moment. She was a fine, fine girl, me pig Stella was. Okay, so we got another disgruntled customer. Right, stay mad. You do have a little bit of time to respond to people, so it's kind of like triage. And if you have spare time, you go and get more shit. One more Castoria copy so I can eventually 120. Damn. Damn shame. You're just gonna have to wait. I swear they wait until somebody else needs something and then they're like, I need water. I wish you could like wait them from behind, but you have to be behind the desk. Dude, you just dirtied that table. Stop screaming at me. Stop taking shits on my table. But you'll see, we'll do like another day here where I actually have beer. And not only will I make a lot more money, but I'll actually like... Uh-oh. Oh, keg's empty. So thankfully water's free. You just go refill it. By the way, chat, this cat is named Khadroth. At least water is free. It's not. It actually costs them money. I basically served them porridge and water, and you can see. In medieval times, water wasn't free, chat. It is funny, though, because some of them act belligerently drunk, and I'm like, calm down. You're drinking water. And every once in a while, one of them gets upset because they're like, the drinks are watered down. And I'm like, you're right. You're drinking water. Of course it's watered down. What did you expect? I don't know when exactly you have to go to bed by. I think it's like 3 a.m. in this game. But either way, I normally, like, around, like, 1 o'clock start shutting things down. God, I'm right here, woman. Why did you have to walk over here? It's your own damn porridge. Want to speak to the barkeep? Oh, he got up. Now I have to beat his ass. I don't have to beat him this much. I just like it. Hey, get out of here. Did Bob just song request Rah Rah Rasputin? Say it's not cold yet. The lights just came on because it's finally 7 o'clock. Oh my God, Surf. Trying to do like drive-bys on people sometimes and it doesn't quite land. So it should be about to start getting cold in here around this time. It does. Maybe I see. Yes. Okay, you can see it. You can hear the sound. Basically, I had to go turn on the fire. People start complaining it's too cold. Okay, we'll restock that up. Oh my God, there's nothing wrong going on. They're being very nice for you guys, chat. They're normally not this nice. See, normally I get screamed at like this bitch here. This Karen. How would this restaurant do on Kitchen Nightmares? Terribly, because I have no staff at the moment. You can hire staff, I just am not of the rep level to do it. In fact, I think at 6 I get the possibility. I want to do a good job today. Dude, I saw you, woman. You just dumped that shit on the floor. I swear. Dude, so this table was gross before this table was, and yet they're still complaining. Wait, that's not my normal food. What the hell did she eat? Okay, we're almost to midnight. It's about 11 o'clock. So you can see I'm kind of like a schizophrenic person with my, like running around like with my head cut off. Because it's just, I have to like keep playing whack-a-mole with priorities. And to be fair, it normally wouldn't be this hard, but I have like 5 different tables, right? Which I could probably handle a 6, but things would start getting nasty. Here we go. Looks like I'll probably make it. Oh, I think it's gruel is what they're asking for. They are. Did I not have any food? No wonder I'm not making as much money. Okay, hold on. I know I cooked some. Oh, I can't put any in there right now because I'm open. That's dumb. There are some peculiarities that the game has. Gotta stay on top of the cleaning. People don't like it when it's dirty. Like medieval Played Up, kind of. Like Played Up is very similar from what I remember seeing of it. Oh, there you go. Hireable staff. Oh, finally. Finally, somebody else can be my wage slave. And before they man the counter and I still have to run around like an idiot. This is definitely the most water I've ever used in a day. Oh my god! Oi! Calm down. Okay. I'm gonna do last call. So you can see in the top left it says last. Basically, no more orders is how this works. I put all my drinks back. Because at 2, I'm gonna start getting the oh shit me tired. And that's what this is. They're definitely eating something, if not porridge. So when you have no food prepared, they eat gruel. And gruel just does not sell very well. All of those are like tech points. You can see I can learn new recipes. The recipes are pretty rudimentary for right now. Malting machine. Bronze eye. Decorative armors. Fermentation tank. Low table and a closet. Okay. Smelter. I think I already have a smelter though, so that's not a huge deal. It'd be if I wanted to smelt multiple things. Distillery. So again, some of this, the game is in early access, so it doesn't have everything yet. But apparently they're really learning from player feedback. And they're making changes based off of what players want to see, which is why I think it's just going to turn more into Stardew. Because that's what I suspect players will want. We can make wine. This is why I went the mead route, is because it actually branches into two of them. This is distilling. Still don't have enough blue for this. And yet, like, I'm sitting here with like way too much of certain types. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and pull this out. We're gonna go ahead and put this in. Basically, this is an aging barrel. Stuff ages up and it gets better over time. I probably should make another one. I have no idea if this mead's actually going to age up anymore. There is a, like, maximum quality. Just don't remember what it is. Keep making more porridge. Never cleaned this last night? Weird. Pet the cat. You can like make a bowl for it and everything. I just haven't. It's raining, so we're good there. You know what? Let's go ahead and let's look at the hiring first. Okay, here you can see available prospective employees. There are 4 types, but you can only hire 1 each. Employees may have up to 3 positive traits and 1 negative trait. God damn it. As your reputation increases, you will be able to hire higher level workers with better traits. Panel shows the profession points available, which can be assigned to improve an employee's traits. Employees' maximum hourly wages are also listed. Once you've hired them, you can lower their wage by reducing their traits level or removing tasks from their schedule. Okay, so we can get a bartender, a waiter, a bouncer. So the bouncer will literally just beat people. I get it. And a housekeeper. Manages the rent and room service as well as helping the tavern's upkeep. Ooh, so it looks like at tavern rank 7, I'm gonna actually get the ability to have like an inn at that point. I think I definitely want a waiter. Plus 6 customers over maximum capacity. 10% chance customers won't dirty the table. 10% floor cleaning speed. Reaches work 40 minutes late when the tavern opens. Oh, come on! You asshole. I mean, I guess for the first 40 minutes, it's probably not that bad. But that sucks. % chance of offering the most expensive product on the menu. He's also tardy. Okay, so like, I assume he's just gonna show up. Oh, there were more pickable options. No. Okay, so Daniel, 10% cleaning speed, minus 5% maximum customer capacity. I don't know that that's a problem. Although I also don't know, like, what does 6 customers over maximum capacity do? Do they stand around? Like, well, I'm a little bit, like, wondering on that sort of thing. As soon as you open the tavern. Okay. Alright. Chop some more wood. Trees do grow back and stuff over time, plus you can plant more. I still have no idea how this magic broom works. You can see I basically just run around planting a bunch of stuff. So far I haven't done too much. Okay, I only need that much. And that, and I need 5 metal plates. Yuck. So like I said, you need fuel for just about everything. Okay, I only need that. Everything auto crafts as well, which is really good. You don't have to like do it yourself. Like you can set it to craft and then you can go run off and do your own stuff. Also, these things respawn over time, it seems. Like, after a day or two, stuff comes back. I do have the hops now. I have plenty of barley. I should probably get a little bit more in the way of farming. During spring and summer. I have no idea what it is. I assume this is spring and summer. Actually, that's expensive as all shit. It looks like it's a one-off. Okay. Keep doing that. Not enough fuel, huh? This forestry waste, I don't think you can turn it into anything, and it just kind of sucks. So I guess I need specifically bitter hops for that. Keep making rice flour there. Not enough fuel, The oven, out of everything, takes seemingly surprisingly very little, like, actual fuel, which I find funny. Okay, we're gonna put that on tap. You can select the color so that you have a better idea of like what things are. So for instance, I'm gonna just make this red so that's clearly delineable from the water, because they will be like color coding for like, hey, I need this, I need that, like, and it'll get very difficult if you don't have some way of being able to tell the difference. Particularly between multiple different alcohol orders. Oh, I need the... whatchamacallit. Rub it and make 3 wishes. A shining candle holder. Now 20% more luxurious. Oh my! It actually is. It provides more comfort. Screw it. Make it. I require it. Somebody say, ring of 3 wishes. Yes. How do I get one of those? I assume if you're asking that means it's a trap. I do have a bird's nest, and I have yet to see a bird land on it, so I just assume it's totally unhelpful. Alright, let's open up. Eventually, I'm gonna get some dude to show up here. So now that I have another drink available, I will only, like... probably only, like, hold 3 of these in case somebody, like, shows up and is like, yo, dude, I want beer. How do you already spill? Hey, back here. New waiter has arrived. Waiters will not pull drinks from taps. Orders need to be ready at the beverage table so that waiters can serve them. Okay. Oi! You calm down. Oh God, he cleans tables. Thank the Lord, baby Jesus. Yeah, take it to him. Do something. I like how people just come to the table and not like do it. Will you clean that? Oh, he'll clean. The only thing he won't do is he won't handle belligerence. Which kind of sucks. Both can end a campaign, I assume so. That was the only reason why I assumed Bob asked. Time to sleep? No problem. Ah, the owner of this place is a cultist. How did they know I played Cult of the Lamb? It's almost like they know. Which, by the way, chat, has anyone played the Cult of the Lamb DLC? Oh, whoops. I need to take more beer than that. Also need more candles. There may be a way to like micromanage candles. I just don't think it's actually worth doing. You can see I'm already almost out of beer, so I haven't been able to like stay ahead of beer because you only start with the 2 kegs. So I may need to like just build a whole bunch more. Thankfully, there's like no actual belligerence right now. You can only hold the 5 drinks, like I said. I had to speak too soon. I do find it annoying that even with a waiter, they all still come to the freaking table, which forces me to have to do it. He's kind of like not worth because of that. Like he only delivers things to people like that. I also can't really see the bottom of the screen. So like I have no idea if there's like a belligerent person down there. Oi! Man, they all want water all of a sudden. How's your waiter working out? He's not. Like, he is handling some of the stuff for me, but, like, I'm not sure it's actually worth. And you can see it's only, like, 5 o'clock, and I'm already about to, like, run out of beer. So I think I just need to go on like a barrel building crusade and like make as many of them as possible. Thankfully, you know what? Every beer he serves, he definitely like for that hour manages to kind of pretty much pay for his upkeep. And he also cleans, which is one of the things that I am not specialized to do. You can like spec your character, but like that is just something that I am not fast or good at. And he at least seems to do that. Headed as far as I know. Wait for what, Jay? Oh, for Cult of the Lamb. Yeah. Oi! You want to speak with the barkeep? Speak with me broom. That curly-haired person is secretly weird AF? Yes. That's because they are. Okay, so it's getting late. Drinks are watered down. Basically, you have to stop them before they, like, get to other customers and piss them off. Employee is taking a break. Whoa, hold on. He's not allowed to take a break. Fuck that. Dude, I am not paying his ass to take a break. What the hell? Yeah, this is medieval times. Nobody gets breaks. Okay, we are out of beer. I have the last one in hand. Dude, how long of a break is he taking? Everyone gets like a 15-minute break. My bro is taking like an hour-long break. I better not be paying him the wage during this time. Do I just have to like go get him every freaking time? Like, will he just not come in until I do? Because that's like, that's wild. They can have a break when the plague takes them? Exactly. Besides, everyone knows the plague is forecast for Tuesday. Yeah, do you ever think that, like, COVID is like the modern day bubonic plague? Can't believe you have to remind him to go back to work. I mean, it's just like a normal employee. I I don't like that I can't put multiple drinks down here because it means I can't like pre-serve and like just stock that up. Which like 100%, especially with water, is something that gets done in restaurants. You usually have like a pitcher. Part of the tech tree development of the bar later on. Like I said, it's still in early access, so I think they're going to expand some of it. You do have the tech tree. I have experience upgrades, which I only have 18 experience right now. I don't know when I get more. Recipe books. This is my workers. Will not come to the tavern and will also not get paid. Oh, I see. Ah, so he's getting paid based off the task. Here you have checked to lower their wage. Interesting. Can I lower the problem with tardy? Calm down, sir. Dude, I swear they try to juke you. They like start heading to different parts of the counter and you're like, holy crap. All right, let's see if he actually picks up multiple at a time. Looks like he did. And boom. Oh my god, he went on break again. Bro. As far as I can tell, there is no penalty for like telling him not to, other than I think I drop all drinks that I'm holding. Okay. So it looks like the second I see that man run off for a break, I just run right after him. I just tell him, nope. We're gonna tell last call. This way they finish up their stuff. I am not a cultist. Also, like as they're getting up and heading out, they just start dirtying everything. Hey, where you going? Okay, I guess he's going home for the evening. Sleeping is also how you save, just like in Stardew. And you can see it just kind of like loads you into the next day. So it is what it is. But again, that's Traveler's Rest. And I didn't even get to show you guys everything. There's plenty more where that came from. So it's a neat little game so far. I do enjoy it, but I do feel like there's a level of like tedium to the bussing of tables and stuff like that. But I guess no more so than there just is naturally with like actual waiting of tables. Let me see who all is on. We send you guys over to Mr. Fox first. He's doing some Deep Rock Galactic. And again, I will be back tomorrow. We will be continuing with the Shufu analysis. Let me make sure I spelled that right. I don't want to hit the raid button because it instantly teleports you all. But again, thank you guys for being here. Always appreciate the support. If you guys haven't already, check me out on Twitter. Get on the Discord. Again, that's the easiest way to know when I'm going live and what I'll be doing. And again, we also have a great community on there. So thank you as well. And I will see you guys tomorrow. So go give Fox my love. Have a good one. Wait, hold on. That's the be right back screen. There. Yeah.